Okay. I think we're live. I'm pretty sure that my mug is being broadcast onto the screen of your choice, dear viewer, whether that be your television, whether that be your phone, whether that be your PC or your laptop. I don't know. So many ways to view Wick. So many different places to see him. Um, Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. We having fun yet? Are we enjoying the week? We had such a good stream Tuesday. I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with how it turned out. Some great discussions. Ran a little long for my taste, but that is my taste. I know that different people, different strokes for different folks, that kind of thing. Today, we are going to be having a panel in about 30 minutes. So if you're here for the panel, you're going to have to wait a little bit. I wanted to go live a little early. One, to keep my schedule correct, right? Like I normally go live at this time, and I like to talk about, or I like to keep consistent with when I go. 𝕻𝖎, Wick, why are you hell-bent on bankrupting me? Well, that's not the goal. My goal is to get your money, but please don't go bankrupt on my account. How you doing, Zephyr? How's it been? We're like I was saying, the panel's not for another 30 minutes. So I just wanted to kind of go live and talk about the news of the day, talk about what's going on. In geopolitical news, there are reports of Iran having captured a tanker, a U.S. tanker. Haven't looked into it much. It's sketchy. I'm low on details, but that is something that I plan to keep a very close eye on going forward. That is an escalation, absolutely. And we'll see how that goes, right? The Houthis are already making a lot of problems in the region, especially with maritime shipping, things like that. This is only going to make things worse. And I am curious to see the U.S. response to this, if any, right? Like I said, low on the details. This is sketchy reports. We don't know yet what's happening. As I get more information, dear viewer, you will get more information. $5 from 𝕻𝖎. Shut up, liar. Well, thank you for the $5. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Cernus in Twitch chat's hanging out with me. How you doing, Cernus? Cernus is asking if there's any familiarity with critiques of liberal feminism from Louis Perry or Marie Harrington. And as I was telling him, not personally. No, I'm not well versed enough to speak in detail on the specific critiques. My purpose of the panel today was to talk about whether or not these movements that we have are actually fixing the problem, right? Are things actually getting better, or, right, is it just not enough, it's counterproductive, a lot of different options here. Look, I know a lot of people are tired of feminism topics, but I find them interesting. This is how we interact. This is both on an individual level and a societal level. It's a very human thing. I know a lot of you don't like talk to girls, which is fine, right? And I get it if this isn't for you. That's fine too. But it is what it is. Do you honestly think we need, from Base Toss, do you honestly think we need another panel about feminism? The whole idea is a snoozer, to be honest. You know what? If again, not all my topics are going to be interesting to all my audience, and that's fine. It is what it is, right? A lot of people, no matter what topic I do, there will be people saying, oh, I don't want that topic. Why are we talking about geopolitics again? Why are we talking about Palestine again? Why are we talking about social inequity again? Why are we talking about racism again? Why are we talking, like, the same goddamn complaints every goddamn time from the same goddamn people who all they want to watch is basically the Twitch politics equivalent of Gossip Girls. Oh, did you hear what streamer did this today? Oh, did you hear what streamer did this other thing today? I don't give a shit. I don't care. And again, unless it affects me, unless it's in my orbit, unless it's someone that I actually know, I don't give a shit. It's boring to me. But you know what I don't do? I don't go and be like, oh, this is boring. Why are you doing this? Because why would I be there if I didn't want to hear that? So again, it's fine not to like all my topics. It's fine not to be interested in tonight's topic. That's okay. I know a lot of people aren't. All good, right? Tune in next week. There will be different topics. We'll be talking about immigration next week. We're going to talk about Biden's remarks about Trump on how he uses fascist rhetoric. If you're interested in that, right? We're probably going to have the food shops trial next week. Short Fat Otaku talked to me about it on Tuesday, and Food Shops herself reached out to me on Twitter about it. We're setting up the actual date when it'll happen, and once we get it done, hopefully it'll be ready for next week. That should be interesting too. Again, wide variety of content for you guys. Wide variety. Sean Bland, Wick got one guide. Yes, that happens. That happens. Spider-Man, I talked to plenty of women, just not like, cause shut up. Sleepy Noodle, hi. Temperance Quill, greatly depends on which facets you're talking about, but in short, it has fixed some problems and made new ones. As all things are. Portland is burning. I still want to see the butts versus boobies panel. I bet you want to see that, you weirdo. Now, what precisely about butts versus boobies do you want to talk about exactly? Preferences? Like, I don't know. Why not both? I like both. Both are attractive in their own way, right? But yeah. But yeah, like I said, the panel's not till 6:30. And gang, if you want to see a specific thing for me to talk about, it's more impossible to reach out to me. Like, the reason we're doing this panel is because someone reached out to me saying, hey, I want to talk about this subject. It makes it easy for me because I can find guests easy. If I have people coming to me saying, I want to talk about this, it makes it very easy to set up. And I love easy things, okay? I love easy things. I want to talk about transracialism, Kilo the Giant. We can set that up. The Big Nick, greetings to you as well. Yeah, Lisa is a blogger, tits or ass? That is the question. Portland is burning is asking. Look, classic feminism, they used to do the bra burnings and things like that. Maybe I'm out of the loop. I don't see any of that anymore, except for in Iran, of all places. And it's not bras. They're burning their hijabs, right? And they're facing huge amounts of backlash from the government over there. It's very sad. It's very distressing. It's something that we talked about for a while a year ago, but then everyone kind of just stopped talking about it. It's still going on. Like, there's still mass protests over there. It's being cracked down on. There were a lot of people got prison time. I'm not sure that they were threatening executions. I'm not sure if that actually went through. But it's one of those things where we have to kind of count our lucky stars. We live in free societies, okay, where we don't have to worry about the morality police coming around and actually throwing us behind bars. Now, we have our own little version of that, right? We do. It's a much lesser version. Like, it's so far removed in consequences that it's almost incomparable. But the principle behind it is still there, right? The principle behind people going around being the little morality police, purity testing is what we call it, right? Trying to condemn someone for their opinions or kick them out of their in-group for their opinions and for their statements. This happens a lot, and it's a very much a younger person phenomenon. That's not to say it is only younger people who do this, but I've seen some data that the younger generation is more puritanical in a lot of ways. And what I mean by puritanical, I mean they're more into they're less tolerant of differing beliefs. Much less tolerant. And that's a problem, right? One of the great things about modern Western society is its tolerance. The Big Nick, oh, a 3-stream watch streak. Well, very cool. It's a hat trick. Let's see if I get chimed out this stream. We'll see what you say. My mods have trouble with you, the Big Nick, apparently. Am I a virgin? No, not at all. Let me be honest. Have you never known a woman? This is not something to be ashamed of. No, I am not a virgin. Sorry to say. Stories as models. Stories as models. I haven't seen you in forever. How have you been? Gang, the Stories as Models, I used to go on his stream, and we talked about sex and death all the time. That was a segment he used to do back in the day. It was a good segment. I haven't been in here in models. Oh, have you been using a different screen name? That's forever. Oh, I haven't been in here in forever. Fair enough. Well, welcome back. You're always welcome here. Everyone's always welcome here. Like, people think that, like, I don't like them in my stream because they don't like what I say. That's not true, usually. There's some exceptions. But I want people to push back against me, right? I want people to argue with me. I want people to disagree with me. Yeah. I like it. I think it's good to have a back and forth. Nazis, are they welcome? Yeah, as long as they obey the rules. Like, no shit, right? I would rather a Nazi be here than at some Klan meeting or some shit, right? Like, I would rather someone with Nazi-like beliefs be here watching me than watching Nick Fuentes. It's just better for them. No, I'm wrong, Spider-Man. Ha ha. Ha ha ha, you're funny. Gan Delvin, Discord mods purity tested me today. True persecution. What did you do to get purity tested, Gan Delvin? Spider-Man says, feminism is an interesting topic right now since for what seems like the first time in like 10 years, people are focused on other stuff. So there's a little room for a reasonable discussion about it. Yes, there is some evidence that we have reached a tipping point and we are on the decline for the cancel culture or purity testing, whatever you want to call it, right? People are less likely to try and cancel you today than they were 5 years ago. That's a great thing, in my opinion. I think that, again, there are people I cannot stand and whose opinions I cannot stand. And yet, I think it's good that they're out there. And I think that it's good that they are being able to have a voice. The Big Nick says, I guess the people who were canceled, just fuck them. Like, what do you want me to do, though, about the people who were canceled? I can't call up Twitter and be like, hey, can you uncancel these people? I mean, all I can do is try to influence the people within my sphere, right? Well, I can do two things. Try to extend my sphere, and then try to influence everyone in my sphere to think more tolerantly about others. I'm a big believer in defending diversity of thought. I think it's a great thing. Brew Crow says the pendulum is definitely swinging back now. Yes. Hopefully we can get to a more kind of a moderate way of thinking. Mm. While we wait, I saw a tweet that had me in stitches. Let me show you guys. Let me get it up. I literally could not stop laughing. Now I'm not sure how serious this tweet was. Okay, I want to be clear on that. Like, I don't know if it was like a joke, just dry humor. I'm not familiar with this guy at all who tweeted it out, right? But if it's true, if this is a serious tweet, it explains so very much, gang. So very much. Let me get it up for you guys. Give me a second. Okay, can you guys see it? Do I need to scroll in a little bit more so you can see it better? So yeah, this is a screenshot of the tweet. I guess some guy called this guy white, you know, kind of silly. Uh, and so he says, I'm not white. I have read dozens of books by third worldist authors like 𝕾𝖎𝖙 and 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, meaning I have earned the ability to not have to call myself a white Westerner anymore. That's hilarious to me, gang. That is hilarious. I don't, I don't, how, like, it, there, again, there's a good chance that this is just a joke, that this was meant to be funny. But I have met people, right? I have met people who, we call them weeaboos, right? People who are so immersed in Japanese culture that they identify as Japanese, right? They're whitest kids, you know, right? But they're like talk as if they're Japanese, right? They try to do all the anime shit, the samurai shit, and they get like so involved in it that they actually think and feel like they are this. So I don't know if this is a joke or just someone like that, but for the other side, right? Like someone who thinks that they have immersed themselves in non-Western culture enough that they are no longer white. I don't know. I don't understand it, but it's hilarious to me. And I wanted to share it with you, my dear viewers, because I thought maybe you would laugh too. I thought maybe you would find it amusing. I'm not sure, right? But to me, for me, it is very, very funny. It is very, very funny. And I can't tell you just how much, um, how much it brings me joy. Okay, it brings me joy. That's all. Wick, add a Gamergate emote, please. What the hell is a Gamergate emote? Like, what does that even look like? Uh, you're on a 5 stream Twitch watch streak. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But like, is that how it works though? Stories as models. Can I just read books enough and I don't have to be white anymore? Can I get the N-word pass if I read enough black authors? I've read a lot, okay? Uh how many do I need before I can start slinging the word around because I'm no longer white, so it's okay. I don't know. But you know, we talk, we think, we do. What else has been people have what else have you guys been up to? What else has been going on? What else has been happening in the world of streamers, in the world of stream watchers, in the world of dear chatters and viewers and all that? Temperance Quill says, ooh, got a panel idea. Can comedy go too far? Did Matt Rife and that other guy that made the Barbie joke do anything wrong? Temperance Quill, what's the Barbie joke? I don't know the joke. What's the Barbie joke? Portland is Burning says, if I can get you an N-word pass, will you use it for good, for evil, or for a bit of both? Good, evil, I'm the guy with the N-word pass, baby. I'm missing shitty drama between Tom, food stamps, and Kevin. I don't give a shit about that, right? Like, as boring as you might find the feminism panels, I find drama between Tom and Keffels more boring. And that's just different strokes, different folks. Like, why do I give a shit what Tom and Keffels are saying about each other? You know, I don't get it. He'll only use it for content, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. I will use it how I see fit. It's my past, not yours. Oh, Tom and Keffel's taking 2 hours to say a single sentence is fucking painful. Maybe. Again, I've literally only seen it on my timeline on Twitter. It's scrolled across my screen. I do want to talk a little bit about something else, though. Let me bring it up while we have some time. I want to talk about this way of thinking. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see this very well. Let me read it to you. So this 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 guy says, quotes Frogan, this is Frogan's original tweet. To be honest, I'm done with voting for the lesser of two evils. Promises are made, but rarely kept. U.S. politicians are focused more so on the well-being of international nations rather than their own effing citizens. And it goes on from there. 𝕾𝖎𝖙 quote tweets her, dunking on her a bit. When you care so much about Palestinian rights that you help the candidate with even worse policy positions on Palestinians win. A little bit of a dunk there, as Twitter is wont to do. Vaush responds. Vaush of all people. Okay. You're correct, of course, but right now, the Biden admin is behaving so monstrously that I feel there's basically no value in pushing this line. No amount of technically correct snark will convince people to go out and vote for a squirrel molester to beat a dog rapist. Thank you for the gift sub. Why does Twitch TV hate me? What? First of all, Biden has done as best as anyone can, okay? As best as any American president can on the Israel-Palestine situation. He has worked to de-escalate by a whole lot, okay? When they were talking about cutting off the food and water, he got that turned back on, gang. When they were talking about only giving them a single day to evacuate, he got them to extend that. When they were talking about like displacing all of Gaza, he's been pushing back on that. Biden has, okay? Look, what more would you have him do? Do we want boots on the ground over there? Do we want to bring in the troops and attack Israel? What do you want him to do precisely? See, this is the problem with this kind of asinine, ignorant advocacy, is it's not based in reality. It's not something that a democratically elected president of a democracy can do. It is something a king could do if a king wanted, right? But Biden is not a king. Why do we want kings nowadays? Why? Why do we suddenly... Why have so many people decided that they want a dictator instead of a democracy? Look, you can have problems with how Biden has handled the situation. That's fine. But when you are comparing him to... When you say his actions on Israel have been monstrous, you don't know what you're talking about. And let's remember, let's be clear, what Vaush said about Israel the other day. Remember when they had that whole... when they had the terrorist attack in Iran at Soleimani's funeral? He blamed Israel right away. We all saw the clip. He went on a rant about how this is just what Israel does. Israel just kills people. Blah, 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 blah. Not a week later, ISIS takes credit for it. The guy's a dumbass, okay? When he doesn't stop and think about what he's actually saying. Again, like him or not, I don't think anyone could do better than Biden has on Israel Palestine. Not in reality. Maybe in your fanfic, okay? Maybe in your world where Biden is the leader of SEAL Team 6, right? And he's can strong arm all the other politicians and make them do whatever he wants. Maybe. But here in reality, gang, we have to work within the system. Especially someone who is the head of the system. I don't know. I know that a lot of people just... And it's frustrating to me. The reason I'm passionate about this is because it's frustrating to me. It's frustrating to me that people can't see what they are actually advocating for. When you advocate for people to break the institutions and societal norms of the democracy that we have created, you give rise and you create weaknesses that people like Trump can and will and are exploiting to become what you want. Okay, what you are asking for. But I promise you, what Trump would do is not what you want. Voting isn't a love letter. Voting isn't a Valentine's that you're giving to your candidate. Oh, I love you, Mr. Candidate or Mrs. Candidate. Oh, I love everything you do for me. Oh, can I suck your dick, Mr. or Mrs. Candidate? No, none of that shit. That's not what it is. Voting is a strategic move that you use to get the policies in place that you want. To elect the people who will put those policies into place as much as can be in this situation to move you closer to your goal. Now, it doesn't have to get you all the way there, and it would be nice if it did, but it won't. But it just doesn't. Okay? That's not how life works. So we have to get progress incrementally and either get closer to what we want or prevent us from slipping backwards. Now, if you want what's Trump selling, by all means, vote for Trump. I don't. So I'm voting for Biden. But you can vote how you want. Zephyr Hash, $5. Is Vosh out of 𝕵𝖎𝖎 Twitch pack? Will you have him on to debate Israel-Palestine? Or do you find no value in his ideas? If he wanted to come on and debate, I'd have him on and debate. Whether he's part of 𝕵𝖎𝖎's Twitch pack, I don't know. I honestly don't know. So, yeah. But no, I would absolutely, if he wanted to come on and talk about it, specifically what I want to talk about him is electoralism in this case, and whether or not we should tell people to vote for Biden. Now, I understand, like, if I'm being as charitable as possible, I understand why he's saying this. I understand why this is his position. I understand why this is the tack he is taking. I get it. He is saying this because there's so many people on that kind of extremist side of things who don't believe in voting. They just don't, right? They are, for whatever reason, disillusioned with the process. They don't believe it can make any difference. And his audience is full of those people. Okay? So not only does it kind of engage in kind of an audience capture a little bit, but it also can rub off on you. It can black pill you as well. And when all you hear and all that people are telling you is the failures of Biden, and there have been a few, then you don't get to hear about his successes. And he's had quite a few successes. Like, if this is a bad presidency, please show me a good one, right? Show me a good one. But I know a lot of my audience disagrees. I have a lot of conservatives in my audience, which is, you know, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. I'm glad that I kind of have a cross ideological draw, right? And I think that they're here because they trust me to give them a fair shake as much as I can when I don't agree with them. Now, to be honest, there are some conservative views I do agree with, right? There are some that I do think are worth um, propagating, supporting. I think that the idea of incremental progress and reform and not going too far too fast, I think these are wise. I think that it is good to have that kind of brake pump every now and again before we get too ahead of ourselves. I think that we risk a lot when we try to upend and abolish whole systems, like abolishing gender or abolishing the police or abolishing capital. Abolishing prisons is another one I hear a lot. That's not mine. That's not my politics at all. We can recognize the issues with these systems. We can recognize it, like, let's take prison, for example. We can recognize it's not a good place. It's not working very well. But that is no excuse. Like, just because your boat has a few holes in it doesn't mean you blow up the boat. Okay? You fix it. You fix it. Maybe you restructure it a little bit, right? Piece by piece by piece. But what you don't do is take a rocket launcher and blow it up. I don't know. Nerdy Rodent says, abolishing things. Brent Lowlatcher, conservatism is just progressivism going the speed limit. I've heard that before. I'm not sure that's entirely true. I think that's a little bit too cut and dry. Not cut and dry, but too binary for my taste. That's not even the right word either. What's the word I'm looking for? You know what? Old age sucks. I forget words. I used to have such a verbose vocabulary. I would be able to pick out words left, right, easy peasy. But now I'm just forgetting the words I need much more than than I need to. And it sucks. You remove ownership of the boat and give it to the people. Man. No, Wick is not going solo tonight. Wick has a panel in about 2 minutes here once my panelists get here. Where are the women's? It's not going to be all women tonight. One's backstage. I'll wait for a couple more to get backstage and then I'll pull them on. And we'll talk about feminism. Feminism. Everyone's favorite topic. Everyone's super excited to get into it today. I can tell. I can tell by the people coming in very like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to shit talk women. That's everyone's favorite. I know it's my favorite pastime. Is it your favorite pastime, gang? Okay, I hope it is. Because get your super chats ready. I'll read them out. Okay, get your super chats ready. PDX Pleb says abolish police was mostly rhetoric, in my opinion, to demilitarize the police. Sure, perhaps, but if you want to demilitarize the police, say you want to demilitarize the police. Don't do this bullshit thing where you say abolish the whatever, and then, oh, I didn't really mean abolish it. I meant something that I didn't say. I hate that. That's annoying to me. Say what you mean, please. Don't scream the most extreme thing and then pretend you're saying something that's not it. I don't know. Someone tagged me. Let me scroll up. Oh, how's the stream been going? It's up and down, up and down. It's a new year. We're trying new things, right? I'm mostly on YouTube now, for what that's worth. So those of you who want the YouTube experience at WhickTV, don't forget the dash. Okay, get in there. Okay, let's start bringing in the guests. Let's try to find where they are. I don't know if they're all late or whatnot, but let me bring them here. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Are we live? Are we
yes,
here?
we are live. You're in front of a live studio audience right now. If you can get your camera up, that'd be great. Let me find out where everyone else is, because you're the only one here.
Okay.
and that's concerning.
Listen, do I win by default if nobody else shows up?
Yes.
Okay.
Just jump backstage when you are ready, gang. Okay, I sent them the link. They should have no excuse. All these people are in my Discord, though, I believe. And all of them have been, well, maybe Cypher. It's been a while for Cypher, but everyone else has been on my panel recently, so I don't... How have you been, by the way?
I've been good. Yeah, no, everything's been pretty good. Sorry, here, I'm going to pick up my camera. I'm going to show you my cat. She's staring dangerously at this keyboard. Do you know why she's here?
To interrupt the stream?
Oh,
what a cute kitty!
I know, isn't she cute? She wants to hop on this, okay? That's why she's here, okay? She's going to stare at me and swipe at my face at some point in the middle of the stream, which is why she's hanging out there. So just know that if a paw swipes out of nowhere, okay, it's because I've been attacked by a furry little terrorist.
Noted. I'm getting a little bit of echo from someone. I'm not sure who it is.
Is it me? Here, hang on. Let me.
No. Might be Joe.
It's probably Joe. He just joined in, and that's when that happened.
Okay.
Cypher, you're very low. Can you turn yourself up?
Yep. Give me a second. I haven't streamed in like a month, so.
That's fine. Hello321 says, how many Cokes do you drink a day? About 2 or 3, depending on the day.
That's not healthy. I said that's not healthy. Still got cider right.
No, soda isn't healthy for you. That's true. Cider. You know what? It is what it is. Joe, can you turn yourself up too? You were very low.
Oh, okay. Give me a sec. Okay, how's that sound?
Let me turn you up on my end too. Okay, try again.
Okay, how's that sound?
Better. Can everyone else hear him?
Yeah, I can hear him fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
We're still waiting on Ginger and Goat. Allison was going to be here tonight, and Mooncake was going to be here tonight, but Mooncake's had to work late, so if she gets here, she'll get here, right? But she couldn't promise it. And Goat's, well, I don't know why Goat isn't here yet, so let's find out. Cypher, it's been a while. How have you been?
Been all right. Rebranding. I got sick in December. Not anything major. It was just back-to-back sicknesses. So that's why I wasn't around.
We got someone.
Oh, that's one more. Okay? One more down. Just one more to go. Ginger, hi.
Ginger.
Hopefully your mic's working, because I can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Uh-oh. See, this is why I don't like going live before I do my panels, because the tech stuff. It's not fun to do tech live. But Ginger, I can't hear you if you're talking, so. Oh. Beautiful.
Can you hear me?
Oh. Oh. Can you turn yourself up, though?
Yeah. How's that?
Try one more time.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Cameras if we got them, gang. Joe and Ginger.
Yes.
It should be. Give me a sec. Okay, let's see. Hello.
Shit. I have to say to begin with, all right, I have this stupid retardation where if I'm around somebody with an accent, I start to pick it up. I'm not going to be mocking you. It just will come out sometimes.
It's okay.
Because it's just, I don't know what it is about me, but that's just something that I do. So I apologize beforehand, and I will apologize while it happens too.
Okay. To my audience, can you guys all hear them, Vine? Can you all hear them pretty good? Everyone coming through? Is there anyone that needs to be turned up or turned down? Cypher was quiet. Okay, Cypher.
Am I still quiet?
Apparently, to my audience, you are. So, can you?
I just don't want to.
You gotta use the big boy voice today. Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm turning it up directly on my. I'm turning up the gain on my mic right now. So if I'm not getting louder, that's
You're not getting
a
louder at all.
equalization on your end.
But
Let
I can
me go
hear
ahead
you.
and test it on my end.
I think, let me see if I can't turn you up on my end. Okay. Try now.
Testing 1 2 3. 1,
How's
2,
that,
3.
audience? Is it better?
Oh, you know what? Hold up. Give me
Okay.
1
Some of
second.
my audience is saying they can hear you now. They say it's better.
Yeah, but I still need to do one thing. So please don't start just quite yet.
Don't start just yet. We're like 6 minutes
I know
in
we're
already.
like 5 minutes
I
off.
this
I know.
going. I want to start us on our conversation. You know,
All right.
feminism may or may not have failed all of you women, but this panel's failing me today. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Are we all good? Can I do the intro? Can we start?
Yeah, go for it.
Everyone good?
Sorry.
Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WhickTV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today we have a topic for you, gang, and a guest list to match. We're going to be talking about modern feminism. Has it failed women? Or is it still a positive force that is breaking barriers and uplifting and upholding women even still today? We have brought on some lovely guests to talk about this. We have one more coming. When she gets here, we'll pull her on. But we're just going to start because I respect your time and I respect my audience's time. So yeah, I guess we'll start by letting everyone have a brief, and I stress concise, introduction. Okay. Tell people who you are. Tell people what you think about the topic, and when, and we'll get going from there. And we're gonna start with 𝕍𝖓. 𝕍𝖓, who are you? What are your thoughts on modern feminism?
Hey, Wick, thanks for inviting me on. So to anybody who doesn't know, my name is 𝕍𝖓. I streamed under the moniker of Crowdsourced Politics, but I'm no longer streaming. I'm going to be doing just produced content from now on, except for these debate panels, and I'm also going under a rebranding. So that will happen by the 20th of this month. Website being launched, a bunch of different stuff. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So as far as the topic is concerned, I don't think that modern feminism has failed anybody, let alone women. And with that, though, there might be some things where some people are taking it a little too far or misinterpreting what modern feminism might be. But at the end of the day, as long as women don't have bodily autonomy, feminism is needed. And so modern feminism is not failing anybody. And that's it.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here, and we'll get into it as we go. Next up, Fairy Queen, please.
I really want to get to the back and forth, but there are 3 questions that I want to have answered today. Number 1, I agree with 𝕍𝖓. I do not think that modern feminism has failed anyone. If anything, I think the gains that modern feminism has achieved for both men and women have been enormous, including in 4th wave feminism and including in 3rd wave feminism. The question that the opposition will have to answer tonight is, number 1, what do we mean by feminism? That is the first question. The second question is, what do we mean by modern feminism? So what is the cutoff date? Are we talking post-1960, post-1970, post-1990? Are we talking only about the 3rd wave, only about the 4th wave? I really want to nail that down. And finally, if it has failed, by what metric and in comparison to what movement? And this is sort of a question that I think I would really want to nail home, because there have been other social justice movements that have transpired, such as the Black Lives Matter movement, such as the gay rights movement. There have been multiple movements, right? And I wonder, by what metric do you judge whether or not a movement has failed its the people that it claims to represent, or by what metric has it claimed to succeed? And why do you think feminism in particular, and in particular modern feminism, has failed that metric? And that's all.
Okay. Thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Ginger, please.
I think that if feminism hadn't failed us like I feel like it has, we would have more bodily autonomy than we do. Law wouldn't have been passed about Roe versus Wade, repealing it and allowing for states to accept whether or not we can have abortions or not. I don't think feminism is going the way that it was originally intended for, to have equality, and I feel like the majority of feminism nowadays is based off solely becoming more powerful, not equal.
Okay. And last, but certainly not least, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Rick. I want to say that Andrew Tate made me a feminist. It was Andrew Tate which made me decide I'm going to just stick the male feminist logo on myself, because before then I was kind of not sure exactly. I don't know. I mean, if I put it on me, won't there be people who say, well, you've got to believe this and this? And I think after Andrew Tate, after Roe v. Wade, after a selection of conservative personalities who have really blown up in the last half a decade, I'm just going to own the male feminist label, because as far as I'm concerned, like, I don't care if people have a go at me for it. I'm just going to, like, stick with it, because things aren't exactly great in a lot of regards.
Okay. Again, we had a couple other guests planned, but Ginger, it looks like you may be. I'll be helping you out today. But I guess to start us off, can I just ask, what has feminism done for you, right, personally? And I'll go in the reverse order we started. Joe, just be quick. What's feminism done for you?
Very little, actually. I'm standing for feminism more as a stance for other people than for myself.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a very confusing question for me.
Fair enough. Ginger, what's feminism done for you?
Allowed me to vote. Allowed me, like, certain things that I wouldn't have been able to do without it, I'm guessing.
So nothing lately? Really?
No, absolutely nothing lately.
Nothing lately. Okay, what about you, Fairy Queen?
I mean, it depends on, like, I'm not really sure, like, what do you mean? Like, what has feminism done for me?
What has feminism done for you? How has it helped you in your life?
Well, for one thing that it's helped me personally with is it's allowed me to have access to contraception, and the importance of contraception was something that was emphasized to me. That's something that my grandmother did not have access to. It's something that my mom had less access to. And so that's one way that it's helped me. It's also helped me in pursuing higher education. It's helped me in pursuing scholarships. It's helped me in finding community with other women. It's helped me inspire my female students and my younger sisters in learning how to succeed by setting an example for them. And it's also helped me by allowing me to help my mother and allowing me to help my grandmother in pursuing the dreams that they were not able to pursue when they were much.
Fair enough. And last but not least, how has feminism helped you?
I'll try to keep this short, Wick. I think the way that feminism has helped me is that by putting men and women on a more equal playing field, not that we're equal, not that things don't need to be still improved, but by doing that, it's helped me become a better version of myself by putting me in competition with people without doing things like, reducing the ability of women to enter the workforce or politics or have, contraception, stuff like that. And that has helped me improve myself as well. And there's also the notion that, when feminism helps men by revealing how, for lack of a better way to say it, patriarchy impacts everybody, being able to not have to be this macho man, Randy Savage kind of fucking person that comes out and just like snap into a fucking neck thing. That's how it's helped me.
So I don't know. I can't help but think that all these answers were things that happened in the 60s and 70s, right? When it comes to education, when it comes to leveling the playing field in the workforce, when it comes to contraception. Now, I can understand that we want to keep those benefits, absolutely. But when I think of modern feminism, what I think of is things like the Me Too movement, things like, which is both good and bad, to be clear. I think that there were some great things for the Me Too movement and some terrible things for the Me Too movement. What I think about is the fact that men are dropping out of college more and more, right? Like, what I think about is just this overstressing of aesthetic rather than metric. But I want to open this up to discussion, and I want to ask Ginger, because she's kind of the odd man out here, no pun intended. What are your main problems with modern feminism?
Okay, so my issue, and I think this is my issue with most groups in general, is that the the loudest people tend to be the most obnoxious in every group. And the majority of what I've seen with my own experiences in feminism and things that I'm supposed to care about but don't, and somehow I'm not, don't care about women's issues because of like certain things, like being like having to be okay with slut walks because women should be able to wear whatever they want. I do think that people should be able to wear whatever they want, but there's repercussions to everything you do. Whether you're doing something good or something bad, there's always going to be a repercussion to it. And if you can't handle the repercussions that come from wearing a very revealing outfit, don't wear the revealing outfit. And I feel like lately there's just something where, like, as a woman specifically, I don't feel like I can voice those opinions anymore without getting retaliation from a bunch of feminists being like, well, then you don't like women, you're just a fucking pick-me girl. It's like, no, that's not the case. It's literally just because I have a different view of how I want my life to be lived.
This is discussion, so go ahead, gang.
Okay, I guess I'll quickly respond to the slut walk thing, which is that I think you do, to a degree, have a point, but I don't think it's as controversial as you believe. Like, I read a recent J.K. Rowling book, and she has a whole bit which is basically just going off via a fictional character on how she thinks slut walks are extremely stupid and pointless. I feel like the whole debate on sex will probably come up later, but I don't believe it's as controversial as you maybe think to suggest that some aspects of sex culture may have some negative connotations, but I think that's something which is heavily debated in feminist circles, or at least in the ones I frequent.
How many feminist circles are you in?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's Twitter and social media sites. I'd say I'm quite friendly with a good few rad fams.
Oh, fair
What
enough.
Oh, that's
can I
interesting.
ask you, since you did bring up the J.K. Rowling situation with the slut walks, what do you think the benefits have come from the slut walks?
I think one thing I broadly agree with is simply the fact that, yes, men should be aware that you can't just grope women in public. Not that it stops them. I mean, I go out on pub nights a lot, so I see that quite frequently, including non-consensual kissing, for the record. It's really awkward. Like, I'll try and be a stand-up guy, but if some guy who's, like, got a good few heads on me just walks over and grabs someone and kisses them, I'm sorry. I'll stand up to someone my size, not someone who could beat me into the ground. But yeah, I personally feel, I guess this would go back to something like Jordan Peterson going on about makeup, like, but makeup shows sexual arousal, and it's like, what's the point? You know, like, I can stomach not trying to sleep with someone who's hitting on me heavily but is obviously way drunker than me. Why can't some other guys just not grope a chick because she looks revealing? But for the record, I think if you're going to walk around in your underwear, you can't get mad if people are staring or maybe even taking pictures.
Right, and that's my thing. It's like, obviously I don't want them groping women either, but a lot of it was be like, I should be able to go out and do this without being stared at or ridiculed or whatever. And to me, that's insane, because it's like,
to be fair, I completely agree on stared at from ridiculed. I will agree there.
because you're stepping out in public as something that's not of the norm, so people are going to have something to say about it.
Yeah, but why is it the norm, right? I mean, that's ultimately the question of what the
because we shouldn't be going. We should not be going out in public with our bits hanging out.
Why?
Because there are children walking around out there
topless.
To be fair, I go out in public topless, particularly on pub nights sometimes.
So one of the things that slut walks do is that it, like, you know, breasts are just breast. They're just chest. They're not necessarily sexual, right? So that's one of the big things. It's not like they're walking around completely naked. Most of it is focused on revealing of the chest, right? Why do we have a social norm that women shouldn't walk around topless while men can walk around in Speedos and it'd be okay?
I don't think that they should be walking around in Speedos. I think it's disgusting. Okay. But I'm just saying.
Well, let Ginger finish. Go ahead, Ginger.
Women are allowed to wear bikinis, all right?
Uh-huh.
And that's fine. When a man wears a Speedo on the beach, he does get ridiculed and he does get made fun of, and people do talk about it. So it's
Do
absurd
they?
to. Yes, of course. Are you kidding me? Unless it's in a
Man,
whole
this must
European
live in-
beach with no Americans on it. There's going to be people
Well, we were
being
just
like,
talking about
why is
England.
that? I wasn't talking about England.
No, but he was. He was talking about how
This
that was
gets
his example.
confusing when you bring up nationality, but
Yeah.
no, I think
So
it's
let's
weird,
put it down into let's ignore the Speedo thing, because culturally speaking, Americans don't like Speedos all that much unless you're in Miami. That's where it's like, and same thing with the micro bikini. That's like a Miami thing. Maybe some places in California. Why is it that a man can walk around topless but a woman can't? What is the
don't
actual
think
reason?
that- I don't think that it makes any sense for a man to be allowed to walk around topless either. You should put some clothes on.
Okay, so I mean that's you being consistent, but the majority of people that are doing this stuff are not being consistent.
We'll see, but that's the thing is that how many people are consistent on both sides? How many people who are strictly for the feminist movement actually give a damn how a male sees society when he walks out? They don't, because they're caring about their own mind.
I don't know what you mean by that, but other people want to talk, so. Well.
Yeah, I want to toss it to Fairy Queen real quick, and then we'll get to you, Joe. Don't worry, but I want to give Fairy Queen a chance.
I mean, I respond to what Ginger said, but I also want to respond to something that you said, Wick, because I do think that there have been important legal gains that have happened because of feminism that didn't just happen in the 70s, that didn't just happen in the 80s. They also happened importantly in the 90s and importantly in the 2013s. And it's not just the Me Too movement, although that's an important example. Another example would be that we have had a landmark amount of congresswomen and female senators who have been elected. We had our first female vice president was elected, Kamala Harris. We had our first female Speaker of the House who was elected and served longer than any other lawmaker, Nancy Pelosi. We had in the past decade, we had the first woman to serve as a nominated political candidate of a major political party, and in the 2016 election of Hillary Clinton. Now, you don't have to and this is something I often hear in retort to this. Well, why is it a feminist thing just to have a woman, right? Why do I care if a woman represents me? That doesn't necessarily mean that she's making feminist decisions for the benefit of all women. And nominally, that is true. But here's the kicker to that. So after Hillary Clinton lost the election in 2016, it was what inspired many women to go and to run for Congress and then to be voted into office. So the fact that there is one woman who chooses to go and who chooses to go for it inspires other women to choose to follow in her footsteps, and inspires and makes the path easier for other women to follow and to gain those positions of power. And so I think that's an important gain. Another important gain was the fact in 2013, women were allowed to serve in combat. That was an important legal decision that was made. We can talk a little bit more about Roe v. Wade, but I think that's actually an important reason to push for feminism, to support feminist organizations, as opposed to disempowering them. I've had this conversation with a few other people. I don't know why the fact that Roe v. Wade has been overturned is a reason to then distance ourselves from feminist organizations which have historically supported abortion and have supported women's rights to contraception. That seems to me to be a reason to reify the idea of yourself as a feminist and to try to support feminist organizations. The 1990s, in 1991, there was the Civil Rights Act that was passed of 1991, which gave victims of workplace sexual harassment more legal recourse. That happened because of the Anita Hill trial that happened, the Anita Hill occurrence that happened with Clarence Thomas. There are many examples of things we can go over that have happened over the past 23 years that are important legal systemic changes that women have benefited from. So I don't think that it's just from the 80s and the 70s, although plenty did happen. I think that there have been plenty important moves that have been made in the past 20 years. But on to what Ginger has stated. Ginger, as I understand it, what you seem to be saying is, I don't think it's a feminist thing for me to go out in public and to have my boobs out displayed for the world, right? I don't think that being a sexual, is that a fair thing to say? And so you do not like modern feminism, or you're critiquing it because it is influencing women to engage in slut walks, to dress promiscuously.
No. I don't think that there's an issue with doing that. I just feel like like I said, there are repercussions to everything that we do, everything that we say. If you are walking out in public, like let's say you're going to the mall and you decide to wear a bikini, you're gonna get looks, and there are gonna be reactions from people because it's not normal to walk into a mall in a bikini. Now, some people do because they're buying stuff, and there's things that happen to where like you run into a store in your 90s or whatever, but you expect people are going to be like, that's a bit odd. Like, I ran through a casino one time in a ball gown because I had a wedding that I had to go to, and people were looking at me strange. It's just when you're wearing something that's not normal attire for something, it's normal for people to go, huh, that's odd. Like, even if it's something where they're like, if they're staring and they're being gross about it, that's one thing. But like, if they look at you and they're like, that's weird, and like look at you a couple times, there shouldn't be an issue with that. There shouldn't be an issue.
I think like a couple of people pointed out, the question is like, what do we mean? So I think as I understand it, what you're saying is you should dress appropriately depending on like where you are. Is that fair to say?
I also want to say that I didn't realize I was going to be the only one here, so I'm upping myself a little bit on the pushing back
I'll
on
support
the
you. Be honest.
for the
be
feminist
genuine.
thing. Like,
don't feel like you. Just real quick, I'll interject because I wanna nip that in the bud. Don't feel like you have to pretend to a position.
Well, no, I'm not.
I will
I'm not
make
pretending.
sure that
I'm definitely not pretending.
Okay.
But I do know for sure that there's another side to the feminist. But I do feel like that the majority of what's coming out now isn't necessarily helpful towards the feminist movement.
One might argue it's perhaps counterproductive when that is the face of feminism. It's not so much the legal victories that Fairy Queen was talking about, which, again, my question to that would be, what would be the difference? Is any legal victory that benefits women necessarily feminist? I don't know if it is. I don't know if we can draw that connection. Otherwise, if feminism is just defined as everything that's good for women, I think that's just so broad of a definition it becomes meaningless, right? But I want to give Joe a chance because Joe's politely raising his hand, very feminist coded, but go ahead.
Well, I did wear a non-threatening jumper, but I thought I'd just jump in on the topless thing before it completely leaves and say, I've had a couple of people take pictures of me shirtless at parties. They're kind of being passed around. Most people just have a laugh, and I get like, "Oh, hey, I haven't seen you shirtless at this convention. That's unusual." Like, it's never felt particularly mean-spirited to me. I got thrown out of a club once for dancing on a table shirtless. I was watching the recent season of Fargo, and the lead actress, this just came up on Twitter, like someone had posted that she did a nude scene in a movie, and like it's a full-on nude scene, and like there's just tons of derogatory shit under that picture. And on one hand, she's a good-looking woman. I don't mind seeing her nude. On the other, it's hard not to notice how unpleasant people are being about that. And I just don't think I've seen that to, like, men who've done, like, nude or sex scenes, or at least nowhere near as commonly. So, yes, I do think there's a bit of a quote-unquote slut-shaming.
Well, to be clear, I haven't seen many nude sex scenes with men. So maybe.
Okay.
You don't get a lot of frontal sex scenes with men. Like, you get a lot of frontal with women because they can hide the actual offensive. They are able to hide the offensible parts easier than they are with men. But
to be clear, she had plenty of pubes, so yeah.
Okay.
She kicks ass in this new season of Fargo. I'm thinking I might have to watch some other stuff with her in.
Nice.
Okay, Ginger, you want to finish? Can you finish?
I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll pass it to Cypher. Go ahead, Cypher.
Yeah, so Wick, you said that you didn't really hear us talk about anything that might be modern per se. I think I did when I was talking about the equality thing and the ability to actually like be in tune with more things than what is typically considered a masculine man. I think that the push for therapy, I think the push for against toxic masculinity, I think the push for people to actually explore their. 1 second, I'll get to that. When people are actually taught to explore their emotions, their traumas, their anything that could be considered a negative impact from their childhood, I think these are all kind of things that feminism has actually pushed to people to do. And I think this is one of the things that have been about modern feminism. Now, toxic masculinity, I know that this is term that a lot of people don't like because, you know, a lot of people are dumb and they think that they're calling all masculinity toxic, but it's not like, it's the difference between, you know, saying something is yucky and not, right? So when I say toxic masculinity, I mean the things that are very much typically considered manly man masculine taken to an extreme position. This doesn't mean that stoicism is toxic masculinity, because stoicism doesn't mean repressing your emotions. It means dealing with them in a proper time and place. But just repressing your emotions and only expressing an emotion of anger or any form of like physical violence in order to get this emotional energy out would be considered toxic masculinity. Beating your body up day in and day out, not going to the doctor, because only a sissy would go to the doctor because they have to work, you know, 80 hours a week doing manual labor, that would be considered toxic masculinity. So that's how it boils down to.
Just quick question then, what would you consider a positive masculine trait?
See, that's the thing. I don't really like to put traits necessarily into one bucket or another.
You just went through a whole toxic masculinity thing.
Yes.
So you're putting a bunch of traits in a bucket.
No, okay. I don't like putting like things like leadership and that sort of thing into a bucket. I think that, you know, people, men, women can benefit from stoicism, but a lot of people would say stoicism is a masculine trait. It's not a masculine trait. That's just how people.
But the negative things that you put in that bucket can also refer to women.
They can, but it is not expected of women.
Oh, if you can put the negative aspects on both men and women.
Socially speaking, it is not expected for women to repress their emotions. Socially speaking, it is expected for women.
What are you talking about?
We are told all the time to repress our emotions. Yeah. I was literally told last night that I shouldn't talk about my seizures. Like there's things that like we're always told all the time because we're just women and we're, you know, oh, you're just complaining or you're being a bitch or whatever. Like there's.
You don't see the difference though?
No.
I know I'm having a hard time explaining it, but. Do you not see?
But is there a difference though between men and women's anatomy? So is there a difference between a man taking his shirt off and a woman taking her shirt off?
No.
But there's a difference in the personality traits though.
There's I'm not saying there's a difference in personality. I'm being misunderstood here. So let me try to not walk this back, but bring this back a little bit and try to be more clear. So when people typically talk about a man expressing emotions, what is considered a healthy way for a man to express emotions, typically speaking? Usually it's don't be a bitch, don't be a whiny person, don't do these things, man up, grow a sack, that sort of thing, right? Whereas what's the similar things for women? Women aren't told to like just shut the fuck up and deal with it. Now, sometimes some people might do that, but socially speaking, it is more expected for a woman to be like more in tune with her emotions, be more expressive with them, be all these other things. Those would be.
Now I feel like you're talking down on women.
No, I'm saying that's what people. Okay, cool. I'm sorry, I don't know you, so I don't know when you're being.
No, I know. That's why I laugh. I'm sorry. I just.
Okay. So I think I made myself a bit more clear. So toxic femininity would be not the opposite, but it'd be like taking those feminine traits and jacking them up to 2000 in order to like be the most feminine woman, right? So not only would it be a person that is like, you know, women and men could be naturally physically weaker, but you know, maybe a toxic femininity would be like, oh my God, I can't do anything. Can you come over here and help me, manly man? Can you come over and grab this box that I can't do anything with my dainty little hands in order to manipulate or do other things? That would be like a toxic feminine trait. So quote unquote. But I don't like obviously both men and women can express these bad traits. It's just socially speaking, we expect one group of people to act one way and the other one to act different.
Response to that, Ginger, then I'll continue with the rest of the people.
No, I actually agree with his end result of that. So.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't. I think that like when we talk about like what men and women are expected to do in society, at least from the women I've talked to, and I don't have any personal experience in this, but the women in my real life and the women in my online life and things like that all kind of give the same report. Like they are told to just shut up about it. all the time. Not only their emotional issues, right? But also their physical issues, right? If they're having some medical thing, right? They're like, man, why can't you just be a little strong about that, right? Like, this is something that bothers me because, again, we look at these things like men not wanting to express their emotions and being told to shut up about their emotions. This happens to women all the time too. And one of the failings of modern feminism, to get back to the panel at hand, and I'm helping you out here a little, Ginger, or I wouldn't normally come into these things as much as I
Right.
am doing right now, but we're doing it. And hello, Brittany Simon viewers. Welcome to the stream. But one of my problems is this, not only what you were saying and kind of like the opening up and the promiscuity, right, that is become prevalent and made a lot of women uncomfortable. But also, right? But also this idea that if you are trying to repress your emotions, then you're being toxic masculine and things like that. But I think I pretty much identified this well when we asked Cypher about, okay, what are positive masculine traits? He doesn't like to put it in buckets, but we do put the negative ones in buckets, and we don't talk about
Okay,
toxic femininity.
Okay, so
We are
Can,
always
can I
talking
give,
about toxic
can I give some examples
masculinity.
of?
And we'll give
Okay,
you
I
some
think
time.
I think the issue with when we talk about toxic feminism is what we usually talk about aren't actually toxic traits. They're weak traits. Like when we talk about what's wrong with women, it's like they're weak, dependent, passive, lacking in self-confidence, poor self-control, indecisive, hysterical, overly submissive, obedient, blah blah blah. Like it's not really talked about as a sort of, like, at best you get people who are like, oh, they're bitchy, but yeah, but when we talk about women as sort of in a negative way, we're usually referring to weakness as opposed to something which is actually harmful to others, which is kind of the separation between, like, when we talk about, say, toxic masculinity, we mean someone who is violent, unemotional, domineering, etc., aggressive, competitive, that sort of thing.
So why don't we
So,
talk about the violent, aggressive women, like the ones that beat on their boyfriends and get away with it because they're
okay,
women?
I understand those exist, but the thing is, I have never had a gang of women force me to drink urine and then beat me up. Like, it just does not happen. I'm sorry. It's
Okay, but men
I
do
am
that
there.
to men.
Yes, well, they
And
do. I've
women actually
experienced
do
it.
that kind of shit to women. Women are
Yeah,
just as bad to women as men are to women and men are to men. Like it I mean, otherwise there wouldn't be rape in women prison. There wouldn't be, like, I'm not even just talking about the guards. I'm literally talking about female on female. Like the fact that it's all based solely on the fact that it's toxic masculinity as opposed to a toxic human trait that
Well,
we
actually,
all have.
I would
So
completely agree with you there, which is why I think instead of saying we need to stop talking about toxic masculinity, we need to stop talking about masculinity as a whole, because it just gets into this confusing mess. And half the time, the positive examples can end up being the same as the negative ones anyway. So
I wanna
it.
give Fairy Queen some space here. Go ahead.
So Ginger isn't wrong. It is true, unfortunately, that female predators are not held as accountable in comparison to male predators. And it is true, unfortunately, that like male victims of sexual abuse in particular are unfortunately less likely to report sexual assault when it happens. It is true that, and do not deny that what you're saying is true. There are women who commit sexual assault in prisons, both as guards and both as inmates. In fact, there was a really disturbing article. It was published in the Atlantic that talked about female sex offenders. So you have a point there, and it's not something that we should ignore. But the reason why, there are 2 points to respond to it. One of them is, I would say that it is a feminist thing to do to push back on female sex offenders and to say that women should be held just as accountable for sexual assault as men. That is something that is pushed by feminists, right? It's and I would argue actually that it's often like conservative circles that are very anti-feminist who will say that women, aren't nearly capable of committing sexual assault or sexual violence, and that it's stupid and et cetera. And they They represent women as being weak and as not being violent and as not having that capability. But the second reason, and this is the caution, this is an argument that I've had with Wick, right? This is a disagreement that we've had before in the past. So, and some of you may have heard, we all know what the red pill is. What many people, I think, have forgotten is the red pill's origins. And the red pill's origins was an organization that was called A Voice for Men by Paul Elam. Paul Elam, like when he started this, he was the original granddaddy of the red pill, and he created a website that was called Register Her, okay? And he created a foundation that was called A Voice for Men, which was supposed to advocate for men's rights. When he created this website called Register Her, which was supposed to put female sex offenders and female perpetrators of domestic violence, it quickly devolved into a hate campaign. It devolved into a hate campaign of doxing female journalists, feminists in general who had criticized the movement, women that he simply didn't like were posted. One of the journalists in particular
has evolved into something like that recently. That happened recently, I wonder.
Well, this is the thing, and this is sort of my question to you. I don't deny that women, female sex offenders should be held accountable, but the problem that I find with it is, number one, when people make that assertion, they tend to sneak in the second assertion, which is that the rates of women committing sexual assault and being pedophiles and child molesters, even if there is a gap, it must therefore be roughly comparable to the rate of men committing and perpetrating sexual violence against people. And the danger of that is that essentially it's used as a rhetorical point to tell women that when they say that they feel frightened of men or feel frightened of being alone in spaces with men, that they're idiots for feeling that way. Because after all, haven't you heard that women can commit sexual violence? Don't you want to hold women accountable? And so this point isn't actually about advocating for male victims of sexual assault at all. It's mostly about bullying women who say that they feel uncomfortable in spaces with men and telling them that they have no reason, or that the amount of fear that they say that they have towards men potentially assaulting them is ridiculous to have, because women are absolutely, we know that women are just as capable too. And so this is the caution that I would have to you as far as that. I do also want to respond. I talked a while, actually. I probably should stop.
I wanted to give everyone else a chance to respond to. Let's take it point by point, right? The issue is trying to. You said a lot there, so I want to give people a chance to respond first to the assertion of Register Her. The little offhand comment I made was, again, the implication that I think you're trying to sneak in here, right, by saying, oh, Register Her just turned into this hate campaign, is we saw the exact fucking same thing happen with Me Too, when it was the opposite genders, right, doing it. Is it turned into a hate campaign with doxing, and it became something, it started well, but it became something else, right? And when we try to ascribe all the negative things to the men's movement, and then we somehow just kind of obfuscate or just overlook or glaze over all the problems with when women do it too, I think that's a problem that modern feminism has taught women. It's teaching women, right, that they are not to be held accountable at the same rate, and when they do it, it's not as bad as when men do it.
I don't think that's true, Wick. I think what we're seeing with this particular thing is just a natural consequence of online quote unquote accountability culture. And what it is that if it's not, for lack of a better way to say this, centralized and hierarchical, it's going to be exploited by the worst people on the internet for whatever political propagandist campaign that they want to do.
Well,
so what happened with Me Too?
No, I agree with you.
No, I'm saying,
my point.
I know. Well, if how is it your point?
Because when Fairy Queen was saying that Register Her and the origins of the Red Pill movement became this hate campaign, doxing campaign, she was saying it in the context of the conversation to talk shit on.
But her examples were specifically about going after journalists who the group didn't like and that sort of thing. With Me Too, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't look at any of the registries, I guess, or the public lists. Like, it wasn't the public list from my knowledge about whatever with Me Too. It wasn't like just dogpiling anybody. Right. And correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I didn't look into it too deeply. I cared more about the fact that this was bringing things to light about how every daughter came into existence. Me Too came into existence, like all that stuff, just to bring attention to the problem and not the other stuff.
Well, it became a weapon, is my point, right? Much like the other thing became a
How
weapon.
did it be?
Also,
but
if
How
I may,
did it
with
not
super
become a
chats,
weapon?
if I may be super chatting, but I want to give it to Ginger after this. Artemis Fowl for $5. What is a man? What is a woman? People who claim toxic masculinity exists are TERFs. Artemis Fowl $10. Can feminists explain how all of societal problems are a result of patriarchy and not just a pathological need to avoid personal accountability? Thank you for the $10.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, but
I
I wanna toss it to Ginger, then we'll go to Fairy Queen, and then we'll continue on.
Well, I definitely think it was used as a weapon. Now I had a thought before that. It was so the issue that I have is that it's taking society and even journalists too long to make the correlation between. So okay, let me try to narrow this down just and make it quick. A man has sex with an underage student. It's immediately called rape. He raped an underage student. A female has sex with an underage kid, and they do everything that they can to avoid saying rape.
Yeah.
Everything that they can. And to me, that's a net negative for both sides, because
So,
we're saying
right.
that women can't rape.
Benevolent
You're right.
sexism. Go ahead.
Okay, I think by some definitions I might have been raped, so maybe we can get onto this. No, seriously, I woke up
I
with someone.
believe you. I just don't know what to say to that. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No,
that happened.
I once woke up with someone riding me, and I was like half asleep at the time. So that, by some definitions, that would count.
I would count that.
Right, it's right.
I can't say I gave a shit personally, but you know, maybe I'm not like some people. I think my issue with the backlash against Me Too is there is some stuff that is correct in there. First of all, some people hate me for this, but I'd say having sex with someone who's underage shouldn't be automatically considered rape. Like in some cases, a Roman Polanski almost certainly raped.
But when do you think it's appropriate to say that it's rape when a teacher is having sex with a student who's underage? Or even not underage.
I'd say it's an abuse of power. I'd say it's something you shouldn't do because you should be more fucking responsible. But that's
so you don't believe in statutory rape?
Well, I think the reason we say it is we've got that word statutory, and that often gets confused because you've got some cases where people say it's statutory rape and it is just rape, but we put statutory in front of it because there's a kid involved.
That doesn't answer my question.
So, for example, a lot of European countries have different ages of consent. So, in my eyes, someone who has sex with a 16-year-old in their 30s is always a sleazebag, sort of. But you know, in the UK, that's not considered statutory rape. So that's basically my point. Like, it comes in different things on what you define as rape.
This is a very American versus the rest of the world definition of what the age of consent is. I don't think we should get into it because it's going to put against
but
I don't know if we can't talk about it now, though.
Why is it we're only okay discussing things that are legally acceptable, but morally acceptable we're not allowed to discuss? Because morally acceptable is very different than legally acceptable, and it should never be acceptable for a 30-plus person to date a 16-year-old person.
Oh,
I agree.
I completely agree with like what you're saying, Ginger, and I agree with what you're saying regarding the teacher assaulting like the student. It doesn't matter what sex the teacher is or what sex the student is. That is always considered. I consider that always to be
should, if it's going to be labeled rape from a man, it should be labeled rape from a woman.
But here is a statistic that I've never heard anybody talk about, which is something that relates to teenage pregnancy. So this is a shocking statistic that you can find. It's by a researcher. His name is 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. You can look him up. He wrote a book which is about teenage pregnancy. And what he found was that actually many teenage pregnancies that occur, most people think of teenage pregnancy as two kids being stupid in the backseat of a car. So the conservatives say, you know, they live in a sexualized culture and they think that they've been just bombarded with sex. The liberals say they don't know how to use condoms. The reality is for many cases of teenage pregnancy, like upwards, like I think in like upwards of 30%, it's actually the case that the father is an adult man, and that the mother in this case is a teenager. And so the rhetoric that has often been used, that has been used for years regarding teenage pregnancies, has been that teenage girls need to be held accountable, that they need to be held responsible for their behavior. And this is, and I know, and I want to be very, very clear, I know that this is not what you were saying earlier regarding like dressing appropriately in public, but the reason why many feminists react to that instantly, it's not because most people think it's appropriate to have your boobs pushing out of your shirt when you go to the mall. It's because that kind of rhetoric is often used at young girls. And in particular, it's used at young girls like when they're assaulted. And it's used oftentimes like in these cases, like when these girls are assaulted by these adult men. This is another thing that's often not talked about in these spaces. Child marriage exists in America, and it exists in many states throughout America, and it is not nearly talked about or prosecuted nearly enough. And part of the reason why, and it should be, and the reason often why it should be, I really think that we need to talk more about this word accountability and the context in which it's used. Because on the surface, of course it's true that like women are just as accountable for when they commit sexual assault as men. Of course that's going to be true. But at the same time, we cannot seriously hold like somebody who is underage as accountable for the engaging in a sexual act if the person that they're engaging with is an adult. The adult is always going to be more accountable in that instance. And oftentimes, the way in which these stories have been framed about teenage pregnancy and about child brides, etc., have been framed in a way that unfortunately benefits men and often uses girls as a heel. And I think that that's a reason to push feminism. I also think that feminists would support what you are concerned about, which is the sexual assault and victimization of young boys.
Okay, I want to give Ginger a chance before anyone does anything. Ginger.
Well, I think her question hasn't been actually answered, and I was going to. But go ahead, Ginger.
Yeah, but
no, actually, go ahead.
Okay.
If you have an answer for me, I would love it.
I do. I have an answer for you. So this is a issue with our culture generally. It is an issue with what is expected of the difference in maturity and what men and women want. And to most people's eyes, and this is not my opinion, but this is how most people view it, if a boy has sex with a hot teacher, nice. It goes back to the Dan South Park thing. They're going to get kudos for it and everything like that. Because when I was 15, I wanted to have sex with Mrs. Smith over in geometry class. And damn, where were these teachers when I was a kid? Raping other kids. That 14-year-old kid that had sex with the single woman that was like 40 years old down the street was probably raped. And it's not talked about because it is expected that as soon as a child, a 13-year-old boy turns 13, that they're going to want sex and they're going to be able to consent to it. And that's not acceptable.
Hold on, wait, I want to give it to Ginger first, and we'll get you in here. Don't worry, but I want to give it to Ginger first because she's being responded to. So go ahead.
Oh shit.
My apologies.
Okay, so the issue that I have though is that girls do the similar thing with other girls in school as well. Let's say there's a hot male teacher and, I'm a junior high or a high school student and my friends find out that I'm hooking up with said teacher. They will also be like, hey, good job. Like, that's so cool. Stuff like that. So we also get that too. Like we also get pushed down the road of believing that those are okay things to be interacting with. It's just that because it happens so much, it's so prevalent in the female space that it's like, well, it can't happen to men. And they're like, well, men are physically attracted to this woman, so it can't possibly be rape type situation.
Yeah, and I would say that's a social issue. It's benevolent sexism, and it's also the whole idea of what is and is not masculinity. Like if you're a guy and you generally turn down sex, they're gonna question your manhood.
I agree.
It's not good.
Before anyone else goes, I want to give a chance for Goat to introduce herself. Goat, can you turn yourself up though? It's very hard to hear you.
You might be using the wrong mic.
No, it's I have mic issues right now. That's why I was late. Basically, I had one technical issue after another, so it was a tragic comedy here. But now I'm back with the makeshift mic, and
It's really hard to
I
hear
would
you.
like. Oh, okay. How about now? Wait 1 second. I'll try to make myself louder.
Okay.
You could try going into your computer settings for the sound and making sure that your microphone is your main source of audio output.
It's a makeshift one, so.
If you're using Windows, you can boost the microphone gain internally onto the computer,
Okay.
But it might.
While she
How about
fixes
now?
that, while she fixes
Wait,
that,
how about now?
I apparently my audience can kind of hear you, so fair enough. Maybe it's just a me problem. I guess to respond though to this thing is I want to tie it back again into modern feminism, and I understand the critique that, well, a real feminist would push us forward and say both sides should be held accountable equally. That would be the feminist stance to take, but that isn't how it's been. That doesn't seem to be what is being pushed in practice. When you have what modern feminist leaders, role models, etc., they don't talk about this. And in fact, there's a lot of the lower level feminists who would
yes, or women.
Just real quick, when you do talk about it, you're saying, shut up about that. We're talking about men right now. And yes, women are a problem too, but men do it to so much greater rates. So we got to talk about men, right? And unfortunately, Fairy Queen did this earlier, where she says, well, no, that rhetoric, even though it may be true, it's been used to belittle women in the past, so we can't use that anymore, right? We can't hold women more to account because the men aren't held to account, so we have to concentrate on the men because women are younger. The women don't know what they're talking about. The women, it's not their fault. They're not as accountable, right? It has to be the men, right?
No. That I have to push back on that. That is not what I said. I did not ever. I don't think I will defer to what everybody else here tonight. Like, I never said that like women shouldn't be held accountable for being rapists or for being pedophiles or for being.
I don't think that was directed at you. I think it was more so like a generalization, right?
Well,
it's the rhetoric that she used. The implication of the rhetoric.
I wanted to clarify that is not what I said. And secondly, like, to defer to like what you said, part of the reason like why I referenced 𝕵𝖎𝖎 in A Voice for Men and Register Her, like you said, well, this is just like the Me Too movement. It also started off as a good thing, but then it devolved into doxing. I don't know. Here's the problem with making that comparison, okay? I would not agree that A Voice for Men was originally founded as a good thing. And the reason why I would say that, like, not even as a foundation for men's rights, and this is the reason why. So for those of you who want to look at the source, I'm looking at the BuzzFeed article that discusses 𝕵𝖎𝖎. So A Voice for Men doesn't do anything that most human rights groups do. And most of these red pill organizations that say that they're advocating for men don't actually do things that like women's advocacy groups typically do. So for instance, they provide no services, they don't provide legal aid, they don't litigate cases, they don't regularly lobby lawmakers, they don't advise candidates, they don't produce public policy proposals, they don't produce original research. They're
just there to give talking points against feminism.
Exactly. That is their primary point of existence, is quite literally like to create a YouTube channel and to create talking points and podcasts. That was the original foundation of this site. All of these things that I just mentioned, those are things that like feminist organizations do. They advocate for laws, they produce original research, they litigate, they advocate for candidates to take political office. That's what a human rights organization is supposed to do, right? Now, it might be very well much the case that like the Me Too movement did devolve into doxing and it did devolve into false allegations. But I would argue that if you are going to make that point, the onus is therefore on you to substantiate what the rates of false allegations.
What legislation did Me Too pass?
What legislation?
Yeah, so you just went through this whole rant about how Register Her and the 𝕵𝖎𝖎 movement didn't really do any legislation. It didn't do what
it wasn't about legislation, Rick. It was about the fact. It was about the fact that they didn't do any advocacy or anything else.
What do you think advocacy is?
the advocacy, they have
Changing
been
culture.
advocating for different things along the lines of decreasing or getting rid of the statute of limitation on rape that passed in like 20 states or so. They advocated for things like the ability to report a rape without having to report it as a crime in order to track statistics. They did all these other things. That was a big thing in the military. The military, after Me Too came out, and the War at Home or whatever that documentary was on CNN. After that was done, they went through and did the things about having a report, what was it, an anonymous report. I don't remember it. I was in the military, but I don't remember it. But an anonymous report and an actual report, basically. All these things were things that these groups advocated for. Whereas that particular group, I'm bad with names, but it seems like he was just had really big divorced dad energy and was just trying to get back at his ex-wife. That's my opinion about the guy. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Joe.
I haven't been for a while, so can I have a shot at this? Okay. We're jumping about a bit. I actually don't really follow A Voice for Man. What I did want to get back to is, first of all, on the whole Me Too mess, I would broadly agree you can probably find some examples where it's a little flimsy. But I think what it ignores is just that, let me put it this way. Of the 5 presidents in my lifetime, 2 are probably rapists. Like, there's pretty solid evidence for that. That's quite a concerning stat. I look back at someone like Russell Brand, who was quite big in the left. I know, shocking, now he's seen as kind of a fringe right figure. But people knew about the shit he was up to for ages. Like, comedians knew. It wasn't like some big secret because he bragged about it a ton. Jimmy Savile bragged about how he slept with like 15-year-old girls. This stuff was pretty rampant. So I feel this idea that like, oh, it's Me Too completely overblown. I'm like, not really. Like, being a borderline sex offender was a bragging point at a certain time, and realistically we're only really like a decade and a half away from that, in my opinion.
Pretty much.
I want to give Goat a chance to have her say. She hasn't. Hopefully her mic's fixed and we can hear her now.
I think okay. What's the question again? Sorry.
Well, no, we're just talking about the asymmetry between how we talk about these movements, right?
Yeah.
I very much disagree that because men's rights advocacy hasn't had legislative success like women's rights have, that this means that it's just divorced dad energy, or this is just this overblown thing. This is just men being men, right? Complaining. I think that this is more evidence, if I may, that this is simply more evidence that we do not take men's issues seriously, right? That we just don't, no one gives a shit, right? And we talk about the failures of modern feminism. I would posit that one of the reasons for that is because, due to pedestaling women so much and saying that these are unique creatures that have to be dealt with in unique ways, that it has kind of given a lot of women the sense that there's different rules. It's reinforced it rather than gotten away from it. Does that make sense?
I disagree, because basically the current modern feminism as it is basically has different goals than what it used to. Okay, the goals are basically right now feminism is focused on defining, like, one of the focuses is on defining masculinity. Okay, because we had after long time of patriarchy, we gotta define the behavior we find acceptable for men. Okay, so there's this struggle for definition of masculine behavior and stuff like that, and therefore it feels like men are fighting against the loss of control over their own masculinity, I guess.
Can I jump in on the masculinity
Yeah.
thing? Because I feel like I've
Yes,
got
but then I
some.
want to give it to Ginger for a little bit.
Okay, because I want to throw in another potentially offensive story here. But
Okay, we're going to throw it to Ginger first then. We're going to throw it to
Okay.
Ginger first then, before we get to the more offensive stories.
Just one thing I forgot, and the point is just to push against the social constructs and social and the gender roles that are putting like unreasonable constraints on behaviors of men and women. Okay, so it's the pushback against these gender roles, against these traditional stereotypes per se, and is just to stop thinking like in stereotypical ways about genders. Okay, is like the point of the current wave of feminism. Yes, because we need to like the point is like to eliminate these
Abolishing
social structures
gender?
that
Is that your definition of modern feminism?
Like it's forcing like roles, okay, that aren't necessarily there for in real life. Okay, I mean, it's like social norms, okay, that we think are more inherent in human behavior, and they are not. Okay, they're very changeable. Okay, for example, masculinity. Okay, the point is to push back against the fact that people like say, oh, men aren't masculine enough, or too masculine, and these things aren't supposed to be like these things should be deconstructed. Okay, this is not the point of like, this is not the difference between the genders. Okay, so like discriminating like between different men by their masculinity is like something that causes antagonism like within men. So
sure, no, I agree.
yeah,
but
so
discrimination is
so
based sometimes. Sometimes it's good to discriminate. Like if I have a job,
I don't think so.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. If I have a job that requires certain characteristics, okay, to be successful at, they could be physical, they could be emotional, they could be mental. I want to discriminate against those who do not have those characteristics, or who have less of those
why
characteristics.
men aren't getting into
Yeah, you
universities, Rick?
Yeah. Wait, you wanted to
Yeah, I'm gonna pass it
join
to
in the
Ginger though, because
conversation.
Ginger's trying, right? Like she's trying to get in.
Yeah.
No,
You gotta
it's
be
just
assertive.
no, because it's like I wanna hear their points because I want to see where they're going. So I want to be able to let them get there. But I just like I feel like what we're missing here is like it. To me, at least, it doesn't seem like today's feminism has anything to do with equality. It has more so to do with I am woman, hear me roar, which is fine, but it's more so I am woman, hear me roar, shut the fuck up, men. And that's not how it should be. That's not equality at all. And if the roles were reversed and men were still doing that to women, like they do it sometimes, we will scream at them. But a man doing that is sexist and ableist and all kinds of shit. Like it's okay because it's women empowerment and they're allowed to say and do whatever they want. But as far as like a man is concerned, if he says something,
well, you guys first. Hold on, everyone.
No,
has to let Ginger finish.
I'm asking for a point of clarity.
I understand, but you got to let Ginger finish and answer the question, or get her point out, I should say. Otherwise, the clarity's good, but ask it after she's done. Cool. Ginger, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's the like I said, the problem is not feminism as a whole. It's the people who speak the loudest and who are the loudest about the situations. Like I said in the beginning, unfortunately, the loudest people are the ones that are being heard. They're the ones that are at the front of the line screaming and demanding to be heard. And that's what's being done, is they're being heard. And what I'm hearing from the loudest feminists is that they want equality until it's men are equal to women, and then it's no, women are above men.
This was the situation ever since. This is a problem as old as feminism. Okay, that's not new. Okay, there were always radicals, okay, that think the same way. Like, that's not the problem.
Okay, but it's
The
still
problem is that
happening
the-
now.
Wait. The problem is that in this time we are busy in redefining like behaviors and social norms, and we're not hearing out the voices of the people who are we are redefining their behaviors. Okay, so like for example, if you are trying to push back against someone who is like over sexualizing men, okay, is like used to be like super acceptable. Okay, like women are whores, men are like are studs. Okay, so we're like part of the redefinition of social structures of this current feminism wave is basically to change that these small nuances, okay, in between in gender roles, okay, and change them into a more equal way. Yes. The problem is not that, well, I forgot your point in the middle, so please never mind.
Can I
Can
ask
I
a
jump in
point of
about
clarifying?
masculinity for a bit?
Well,
then?
let Cypher ask
Yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
clarifying question, and then we'll get to you, Joe. Promise.
So it seems to me that your issue primarily from this discussion is that there are people that literally tell other people, there are feminists literally tell other people to shut the fuck up. And and beyond that, being like, no, men are toxic, and it's not just toxic masculinity that's the problem, it's men. So one of those people, I don't remember the person's name, but they talked about, I don't know, reducing the male population to 10%, and then basically treating them like
Livestock.
breed mares.
Yeah,
right?
I think Lav was the
The
one that
one
said
who
that as a
shot-
joke.
You sure it's not the
What-
woman who shot Andy Warhol?
I don't know who it was. All right,
Oh,
whoever
she
this.
wrote a whole manifesto. It's quite
Wait,
entertaining.
hold on. He's asking me a
Wait,
question. I want to make sure.
Sorry.
Joe wanted to like comment to the things I said.
Joe
today,
may
so
want to
it took a
comment,
while.
but Ginger has to concentrate on the question.
Yes.
I'm
Cypher,
literally the only person on my side of the debate.
Yeah, so that's
Sad.
it's rough. Not you're doing great, but I mean it's rough to be.
I'm literally trying to concentrate enough
Yeah.
to be able to answer everybody's questions. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So that would be one of those people that are telling men to shut the fuck up, and they're getting boosted, right? Would you say that that's fair? Okay, who's
Right.
boosting them?
Well, I would say that you did a little bit of that yourself earlier when you were very, very capable of listing everything and putting everything in a bucket of the toxic masculinity traits. But when
I put
Wick
stuff in the
asked,
toxic.
hold on. But when Wick asked you to put some positive traits in there, you didn't feel comfortable correlating the positive traits because they could also correlate to women's positive traits, which I also explained could be done for men in the negative sense.
And I was talking about what we're defining as a social thing. For me personally, I don't think these traits are necessarily feminine or masculine. They're people traits. They
but
might
you
be
were comfortable saying that something was
because from a
social
perspective.
But
social perspective, not
but exactly. So for a social perspective, you're uncomfortable. Hold on, but from a social perspective, you're saying that you're uncomfortable saying it in front of other people.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I was uncomfortable actually putting things into buckets.
Traits.
I was uncomfortable putting things into buckets because I didn't want people to think that I myself am putting these things into buckets. If we're talking about social stuff, then hey, stoicism.
Exactly. You just proved my point. Because you're worried about the possibility of people thinking that the positive traits that you're correlating to men
that's not what I'm worried about.
That's what you just said.
No, it's not. What I said is that I don't want people to take what I am saying and make it my own opinion. Okay? So if we're talking socially speaking, these are things that are considered masculine. Or not stoicism, their strength, leadership, etc. And the things that are considered positive among that are feminine traits are nurturing, motherly, being able to
didn't feel like you needed to say anything at all when it came to saying the negative traits about men.
I actually did because I was talking about toxic masculinity, and I said this is what typically speaking people mean.
But I'm just saying you asked for a definition of what I felt was the negative aspects of the feminist movement, and it's still happening right now to where it's okay to
I just answered your
openly.
questions.
But that's what I'm saying though.
And I
That's
said
my
exactly what I
opinion.
thought was toxic femininity, toxic quote unquote femininity. I answered these questions.
No, because you still refused to
Okay,
say the
I'm gonna
positive traits of the
just
men.
real quick.
Okay,
if I
I
may,
did.
if
I just
may,
said
if
that.
I
Just
may.
now, just
Stop,
now.
stop, gang, both
Because I
of you.
pushed
All
you
of you,
on it.
all of you. Can you guys hear me? Is this on?
Yeah, sorry.
So I just want to make sure it's okay with everyone. Ginger, you need a partner. A partner has volunteered. Is it okay if we bring Doobie on? Anyone rejects that?
Okay, here we go.
Okay, Doobie, jump backstage. We needed a big strong man to help Ginger out. She's
Yeah, please.
I did wanna say,
I'm a
did
toxic
list-
female that needs
I
my
did
my
list a ton of
skip the
negative
rhetoric
female
stops
traits
and
of a
the,
bucket,
like-
so I just want to point out I did try and provide some.
No, but I was asked for a clarification, and that's what I tried to do.
I gotcha. And I
Um,
am sorry that I was worried that people were going to say that this was my opinion when I was talking about the other
Right.
thing.
But that's the only thing that I meant is that we are
Okay.
very worried about the way people perceive how we feel about certain aspects. But we're more worried about how people perceive how we're discussing women than we are about people perceiving how we discuss men. That's my only point.
Would you agree though that would you agree with my take though that these aren't necessarily feminine and masculine traits? These are just people traits.
But that's how I
Okay.
feel in general. Like it shouldn't be toxic masculinity. It should be toxic traits.
Okay.
That's it.
I'm
It's
fine
not
with that.
equal
That's
to
fine.
a woman or a man. It's whoever has these traits, you're toxic, and you need to balance it out a little bit.
That's fine.
But the thing is, the toxic masculinity is just a term that was invented by this movement of toxic masculinity people. Yes, you can't just like put it in a different universe. It
I
has
would
context,
argue
yes?
toxic
Using
masculinity.
it, though.
It's not just
first, I think.
toxicity in general. It's just like people who are red pill. Okay, it's just like
So
I don't feel
you're
very
making my
mentioned
point
term,
again.
and I don't
You're making my
understand
point
why.
again.
hold on.
I think they later claimed it though.
Doobie will be here in a minute, but until he gets here,
Sorry, what?
you had a thought, Joe? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, well we get so far off topics, but let's go back to what I was saying. Yeah, so geez, it's so long. I'm not sure what it was an answer to.
You had an
When you were
example,
discussing masculinity, yeah, and we get this whole thing of like I believe Cypher briefly mentioned, yeah, if you're like a teenage boy, if you're fucking the teacher, you're absolute hero, versus if you're a teenage girl where you're like a slut, slag, whatever, go get pregnant and fuck off. But yeah, I think there was when I was about 21, I was walking home from a convention and I was just chatting to this girl, like it was just a woman I'd met there. And we were walking alone, and I forget how it got onto it, but she was talking about like how she split up with her boyfriend over what I think was like some sexual abuse thing. Like it didn't go in detail, believe me, I've got like 5 different stories which have the same rough thing. But what was weird was she mentioned, yeah, you seem pretty safe or something, because we were both walking alone. And what's weird is I felt really ugly in that moment. Like she said, I seem safe. My brain goes, I am fucking hideous. Like there's no way there's anything attractive about me if this,
that's such a weird
if this
way to think about that.
If this girl says I seem safe.
If you show compassion to a person, he usually says that you're safe. I don't think it has much.
No, I get where he's coming from as another guy though.
My point was
I understand that that's the first place you feel it. That's like the initial response, but it's like.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's a logical thing. I'm not saying trying to make the argument that if you're not overly sexually aggressive, you must be ugly. I'm just trying to say that's how I felt in that moment.
I'm sorry that you felt that way. That's not cool.
I apologize. Can you clarify your point about the
well, my point was more that I feel like this is kind of why I don't gel with a lot of these like men's movements a lot of the time. Like, I think there are good male advocacy sort of areas. I think Reddit has like a male advocacy page which is actually pretty okay and is a pretty perfectly fine community. Yeah, I don't spend much time there, but
can I get a clarification? So you're saying that you were alone with some woman. She said she didn't feel threatened by you. That made you feel like you're ugly. And this is
I said it started with her talking about how she split up with her boyfriend over some unclear sexual abuse thing, which is actually pretty mild given some of the stories I've heard from women. But she mentioned she felt safe, like you seem safe.
And that made you feel like you're unattractive because she felt safe around you.
Yeah,
I think that's like some weird, like
internal. Why would you take?
Sure, I'll tell myself. But I think that sounds like some weird, like internalized, like fucking. I don't even know what to call that. It sounds sexist as fuck, actually. Like it sounds like you feel like you to be perceived as attractive, the woman needs to be kind of afraid of you.
Yes,
that's a really strange, weird way to think.
For the record, this is way before I would like any Tate or any red pill stuff was about. This was just my natural reaction. Like it felt. It was a reaction, at least, from being around other teenagers and young people.
He was younger at the time. Just
I want to drag this.
He was a lot younger.
I want to drag this whole topic.
He said this is the reason he currently still doesn't gel with these groups. So it doesn't seem like he's that far away from that feeling.
Okay, so shall I explain where I was going? I said this is sort of why I generally don't.
Please, this is going to go us to a rabbit hole that I don't think we need right now. So I'm going to drag us kicking and screaming back to the topic at hand, right? Of how modern feminism, if or if not, it has failed modern women, right? And I wanted to kind of reground us a little bit. It's fine to have stories and talk about personal interactions. This does affect our personal interactions. But I do want to talk about how this push, right? And it's kind of related here. We can't approach anyone anymore in public. Men can't approach anymore in public. It's seen as aggressive. It's seen as off-putting.
That's hyperbolic. I wouldn't say so. That's
true.
I can approach people in public. I've never got.
Well, Wick, I think that's
it's not.
I'm not gonna be an asshole. But just really quickly, I feel like that's like one of the weakest ways in which modern feminism, quote unquote, has failed women, quote unquote. I think the most obvious way to me, and I think the most obvious way that I think some of the people on the other side of the argument would agree with, is the inclusion of men into the feminist movement or under the feminist umbrella through trans people or trans women, right? And how they've co-opted feminism in some way for this other wider LGBT activism movement. And through that activism, they are actively working to dismantle a lot of the gains of like the feminist movement, like dismantling women's spaces by including men who say that they're women because they're acting out all the gender stereotypes of women. Like that's ridiculous.
I think this argument is completely nonsense, and the reason I think it's completely nonsense is because for the most part, when a person is trans, they are generally speaking treated as the social characteristics for which they display, and that doesn't necessarily mean stereotypes. That just means how people perceive them. And so when trans women are included in feminist circles, they are being included because of how socially speaking they are treated as if they are cis women. That's why.
Okay, that's ridiculous. No, that's stupid. Right. So the reason
you can claim it's stupid all you want.
Yeah, I'm saying it's stupid. I'll explain why it's stupid. Okay, because the reason.
I mean, we can go back to the 1980s and have this argument all over again, but that's on you.
We're not going back to the 1980s. This is like today. People are having this argument today. I'm sorry.
This is where it started.
I'm sorry. The LGBTs haven't won yet. They haven't totally co-opted feminism yet. You haven't won yet. I'm sorry. So today, right? So the reason somebody starts when we say somebody's passing as a trans person, these are typically people who meet all the typical feminine stereotypes that women have been like forced to consume through patriarchy from the time they're born. They're wearing makeup, they're doing their nails, they're shaving all their fucking hair, they've got long hair, they're plastering on makeup on their face 24 fucking 7. Somebody who does all those things to fit the standard feminine stereotype that has been imposed upon women by the patriarchy, the exact thing that feminists have been working to dismantle for fucking decades.
I think
Right? That's the person. That's the
comparing-
person
Okay,
that we're
there's
saying
some
is feminine.
gender
That's the
abolition,
person
and I
we
think that
accept
you're
as the
going down a
passing
rabbit
trans
hole.
woman. It's ridiculous.
Some characteristics are gonna stay, okay? Whether they're female or male, okay? Some of them, whether you're like having long hair or not, or whatever, some of them are gonna stay. You can't like deconstruct it absolutely. So obviously, to pass as a woman, they have to adapt to the current social structure. They can't just like
Right, they have
do
to
whatever.
put on the patriarchal costume. Yeah, I understand.
kind of,
Okay, so that is a very gender abolition.
If I may, to kind of phrase that as less of an accusation and more of a question, right? And this is to everyone. Do we think that it is a good thing that these stereotypes are being reinforced and upheld by passing discourse?
I don't think that this is a. I don't think that this is an issue.
So it doesn't matter.
I don't think
They
that
will
this is an
change.
issue
Sorry.
with how they're being enforced by feminists. I think this is an issue with how conservatives continually try to enforce gender roles in general.
Yeah.
Because there was no issue with trans women going to women's restrooms until, at least in the United States,
until women started complaining
the
about it.
Republicans started to pass laws in 2012, 2013 or so.
That's ridiculous.
In response
That's
to
a stupid.
overgrowth.
How can you possibly believe that? Right?
And then when they started passing
there dozens of cases. I can finish. There are dozens of cases of women in places that are being invaded by trans men, like our trans women who are actually men with penises, come into these spaces and they don't want them there because they have cocks and they don't want to do it there.
Yeah, I'm
I'd
sure.
rather want to naked.
Okay.
So hold on. So that pushback isn't coming from that pushback isn't coming from conservative Republicans like fucking Trump voters. It's coming from women who don't feel comfortable in women's places, in women's spaces with fucking guys.
It is coming from conservatives, at least in the United States, because that's when the bathroom bill started to be passed after Obergefell, and then it was conservatives enforcing these laws by trying to enforce the stereotypes against women. So when the most famous example of this is a butch lesbian that went viral in 2014, she was literally physically removed from the restroom because she didn't look like a woman enough. Meanwhile, that same thing didn't happen because of another woman who was femme, and that was her partner, because of the enforcement of those stereotypes with that law from conservatives.
Okay, I don't know why you're going to 2014. We have much more recent examples of this.
Because this is where it started.
I want to open it up a little bit.
Doing it and where it happened.
Absolutely not where it started.
I want to open it up a little bit. I want to hear Ginger's and Fairy Queen's and Joe's. Joe's. I want to, especially Ginger and Fairy Queen. I want to hear especially Ginger and Fairy Queen's stance on this.
That's fine. I don't want to get involved in the trans debate right now.
Yeah, I'm not really gonna be jumping on that either. My only thing is that I feel like it's acceptable for it's acceptable for people to take away people's bodily autonomy when it comes to them being allowed to just voice themselves as female or male or whatever, but like I now have to like introduce myself as like cis female to make sure people know that I'm not a trans female now, which is very odd to me.
Who's enforcing that?
Who's enforcing?
Who's insisting? Who's insisting that you declare yourself as cis?
What do you think modern feminism is?
Part of the redefinition of social norms that's happening. Yes, everybody are gonna.
I don't think that this is a large issue out in the day-to-day world. I think this is a very large issue online because we're all fucking losers.
That's really stupid. That's really dumb.
That's not true at all.
There's legislation being pushed all over the fucking country because it's a real like everyday issue that lots of people are concerned about.
No, I think
this is a real movement with real people. Okay, they all of them, most of them, I guess, are online, but there are many of them in real
ridiculous.
life.
Why do you say? Why do you guys think that this is like? Why do you think this is an online issue?
No one can hear you guys when you all talk over each other. I want to make sure everyone.
Well, when they
gets their
say dumb
voice.
shit, I feel like I need to interrupt them because it's like you just look outside, right? So maybe you think this is an online issue because you're an online person. If you look outside, there's bills and legislation being passed all over the fucking country to this effect, right? To support this ideology.
There are laws in the country being required of you to introduce yourself as cis or trans.
Would you call
are you telling me? Wait, hold on.
That was the.
This is why I'm interrupting you, because we're having 5 different conversations and you're responding to not each other's points, and it's a problem.
I'd like to respond to. Cypher.
Okay. Yes, I will let you. Respond to Cypher, but then we're going to go to Fairy Queen. Cool.
Sure.
Okay.
So, Cypher. So, are you telling me that you said that you've been in the corporate world? I'm also in the corporate world. And I know that here in California, right, where my company is headquartered, there have been recently laws passed to support this ideology, this gendered fucking confused ideology, where you need to respect everybody's pronouns no matter what the fuck their pronouns are. If somebody is like a fucking demonkin and they need to wear little horns because because that's what they identify as and they genuinely feel this way, I can't question the identity. I cannot hire them because of that identity.
I'm sure that is a
thing. Google it. Okay, just Google
That's
it.
not a thing.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's not the question.
Maybe the issue again is that you are online people. Just fucking Google it. You fucking idiot. Like I don't want to be mean to you guys.
Examples.
No, this isn't fringe. This is a law in California that passed recently.
That wasn't the example that was given.
You think California is a fringe state?
That wasn't the example that was given. The example that was given.
Okay, that's not what I said.
The example that was given was having to introduce yourself as cis or trans, and that is being enforced in places.
I didn't say that it was being enforced, first off.
But you felt that you had to. Okay, so you felt that you have to say that you're cis.
Wait, can you clarify your problem again and your point?
Why do you feel that you have to?
Ginger's going to get some interruption.
Why do you feel that you have to?
Fairy Queen. So Ginger, explain, elaborate. You felt that you had to identify as cis, or to tell people that you were cis. Can you explain and can you elaborate how that occurred?
Well, it's not, like I said, it's not everybody's community. It's not everything, but there are communities that I've gone into in the trans community where they've made it clear that I have to introduce myself as cis. And that this is not online. This is a community that a group of friends of mine that I had back in Vegas. So it's not like it's something, and it is very stupid, but that's how it was. And it wasn't like just like a 3 or 4 people. It was like the entire place was like that, like where it was every.
What kind of? I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but what kind of community?
Well, no, I mean you did ask me for the specific what I was.
Yes, I don't want to.
Academy is a wonderful community that has this thing, okay, with cis and.
But I'm asking, I'm trying to ask her, what she's talking about, and it's being difficult. So, what kind of community was this, though? Was it an activist community? Was it just like a friends group? Like that kind of thing matters.
It was literally just being at a bar, and it wasn't even a transgender or gay or bisexual bar. It was like literally a normal like dive bar where anytime it was literally like, oh well, are you cis or are you or did you just trans? Like, are you transitioning? Like, it was always like that particular thing, and it was in said set group, but like it is important to people, is what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah, no,
it's not just the subset online. It is important to people as a group out in the world.
This sounds to me that it just happens to be a group that has a lot of trans people, and they're just curious, and I don't see necessarily a problem.
It's so stupid. Like, why are you even
see necessarily a problem with that?
But why is
you're like diminishing like reality.
I'm not diminishing. I was trying to get clarity.
You know what? Okay.
I'm done.
Fairy Queen. Go ahead.
So I will make a concession that will not make my half of the side very happy to do, which is that I would agree with him. I am worried about protecting women's spaces. I am worried about protecting sex-based rights for women. And I am worried about a lot of the trans discourse that has come into vogue along with many modern feminists of today. I don't disagree with him that that's a real concern and but my counter to you, though, Doobie, would be that I think that it will be on the backs of feminists to address that ultimately. That is something that feminists will have to address within our own communities. It will require feminists publishing more scholarship and being willing to discuss it. And the problem with advocating in a position such as modern feminism has failed women is that women will be less likely to identify as feminists and will therefore be less likely to promote organizations that advocate for those sex-based rights. So for instance, like advocating for women's access to contraception and access to abortion, which is currently being curtailed in many states. So while I don't disagree,
think that's true.
you don't think that's
problem
true?
is all this
No,
feminism.
I think it might actually be a positive development. So if women start like refusing to identify as feminists, even if they care about sex-based rights and they care about women's spaces, and they refuse to identify as a feminist because the wider mainstream fourth wave quote unquote feminist movement has moved into some kind of an era where they are being co-opted by this like fringe trans shit, right? And they're allowing men to come into the movement and identify as women and pretend that they have the same struggles as women or even similar struggles as women, right? While reinforcing the patriarchal standards that these feminists have been trying to get away from. If that means enough to them, that they're willing to drop the name feminism entirely and do something else, call themselves something else, promote something else, I think that actually is beneficial, because that might just be the wake-up call that the mainstream feminist movement, quote unquote, needs to get away from that fucking nonsense.
But this is what
Do
part
you
of
have
the
any-
struggle of the feminist movement, yes? Like, the feminist movement also is pro LGBTQ stuff. Like, feminists are like actively fighting for that as well. You can't just like separate.
Well, you can though, right? So you can be pro.
No, you can't.
Well, so first off, I don't think it makes sense to say that these two things are like inherently attached, right? You can be pro feminine for pro women's issues without giving a single fuck about gay people or trans people or any queer people generally, right? If you're just focused on
women
on
not
women,
gay?
right? Okay, some of them are,
the
not all of them.
gender
Right? So
roles
if you're focused on
exactly
hold on, if you're
fucked.
focused on sex-based rights, if you're focused on sex-based rights like access to like abortion, for example,
If
access
you're
to birth
oversimplifying
control.
it, then yes.
No,
okay,
I'm
but
not. You're
in
oversimplifying it.
practice-
I'm actually adding some nuance
I
into the dumb
would
shit you
say
just said.
that
Right, so
lesbians
please let me
tend to be a
finish my
very
sentence
strong
before you guys
part
keep
of-
jumping in with like dumb shit, please. So I think if
Can you be nice?
Ass.
Like,
You're such
seriously.
no,
an
I
ass,
can't.
Doobie.
I can't.
No, he
I
can't
can't
be
be
nice.
nice.
That's why I don't
It's
like him
impossible.
being on
Like,
panels.
It's impossible for me to be nice.
It makes people
So
not
again,
want to listen to your
So again,
arguments.
then
so-
don't listen to me. Then just be quiet when I talk. That's way more useful. It's way more helpful to me. So again, I think that if it's the case that I think you guys might have successfully thrown me off my tracks here. What the fuck was I saying?
You
God
were
damn it.
talking about
kidding.
being
Oh, I hate you
separated.
guys.
Hold on. You were saying something about if you were focused on
I remember.
sex-based rights.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Yeah, I got it. Right. So yeah, I don't think it makes any sense to say, hey, if you're a feminist, you need to care about LGBT shit, right? I don't think you need to like link sexual orientation and women's rights.
Gender.
Hold on. You don't need to link sexual orientation and women's rights.
And
I don't think
gender.
that these two things need to be like intrinsically like linked, and I don't think they are intrinsically linked. But it makes sense if people can care about two things at the same time. I agree. But there are plenty of people in the feminist movement, the feminist space, who've been there for decades, who don't agree with the inclusion of trans women, with the inclusion of males into the movement, right? And what those people are called is TERFs, and they're fucking chastised and spit on, and people like threaten to
And they
kill them
have
and
been
shit like
since
this.
1980.
That's totally not
No,
true. I don't know
it's
where you're
been
getting this
since
idea that
1980.
trans people have been accepted for like decades. That's fucking
No,
ridiculous.
the split that
That's
you're
nonsense.
talking about has been in existence within feminism since the second wave. And it's the same thing with SWERFs as well, and being sex work exclusionary radical feminist. Both SWERFs and TERFs have been a split within the feminist
I
community.
mean, I think
since
some
around the
Spurs
second
have a
wave.
point,
So,
depending on where
if
you
I may,
come to it.
if I may, there are some people who would consider a TERF or
Like,
a
Joe's
swerve.
trying to talk like for a while, so
Look,
nobody is letting him.
hold on.
Yeah, but he's also
Hold
like
on.
British or something.
I'm going to be talking. No one's going to interrupt me, right? You can interrupt each
apologize,
other to a point, but I will talk.
That's so toxic masculinity.
Perhaps,
Like,
but it's my
Yes.
space. I could be toxic if I want to. Okay, I'm taking it back. But what I will say is the question I have for you is a lot of people would consider swerfs, turfs, whatever you want to call them, as not actually feminist. That is the talking point I hear all the time from a wide variety of circles, that TERFs and SWERFs are just not feminists. You cannot be a feminist if you don't accept trans rights. You cannot be a feminist if you don't accept sex workers. And it's even gone as far recently as you can't be a feminist if you don't believe in free Palestine and things like that. I've
If you
heard
called
that.
somebody
that is,
ugly.
that is something that I have heard.
Wick, I think that is the
thing is just
Wick. I think that is an expression of the way that I believe that there are. When I say modern feminism has failed women, I don't mean like the entire like thing, right? I think that there are aspects or there are parts of the mainstream movement that I think are failing women, that are detrimental to women as a whole. And I think that attitude, right, where hey, if you don't like including men in women's spaces, you're not a real feminist. You can't actually care about women. I think that attitude is the clearest expression to me of that rot.
Can a man be a feminist?
Sure. Yeah, a man can be a feminist, but I don't think a male can be a female. And I think it's important. I think it's important to protect sex-based rights and sex-based spaces.
Sex-based rights aren't infringed upon by including trans women within the debate. But I don't necessarily want to get into this more because a lot of people do not want to talk about the trans stuff.
Okay, can I?
Yeah, I know you don't want to get into it more. I know.
You guys,
I can debate you all I want.
I'm sure.
Well, $5 from Artemis Fowl. $5
$5
from Artemis Fowl to say, funny that the pro-feminist side seems to view the trans topic as a literal landmine to stay away from. What are you people afraid of exactly?
We can have that debate. It's just I don't think it's necessarily entirely relevant.
I think the protection of sex, like different sex spaces, is just like also not a very new problem, because if you can remember when the gay movement like started like just broke out, they had like a problem with men are gonna be in, like gay men are gonna be in like men's dressing room, and they're attracted to each other, and that's gonna cause problems. And that's like not a new problem. I don't know like why suddenly it's like treated as like something very new and a very huge issue we need to like address.
So I can answer that question.
It's also wait, just like one more sentence. And it's also caused by these old-fashioned conservative like stereotypes and like it's just caused by conservative thought, like stereotypes.
Ridiculous.
Yes.
No, it's caused by the fact that like 95%.
No. We're gonna go for Fairy.
God.
Fairy's trying. Go ahead.
I'll sorry. I can answer that question directly to Artemis Fowl. So the answer why it's considered a landmine, I mean, I can just speak from my own personal perspective. So for me, part of the reason why I really have avoided talking about it for a very long time, which for those of you who know about my server blow up, you know why. It's because it's true. There is a lot of blowback that you get like when you say something about it. And if you're somebody who's a feminist and that is a belief that you hold, there are still lots of other things and lots of other ways that you want to positively impact your community. There's lots of other work that you can do with feminism regarding abortion rights, access to contraception, making sure prosecuting men who commit statutory rape of teenagers and then covering it up as a teenage pregnancy. There are the fact that the mistreatment of sex. There are so many different pieces of work that you can do as a feminist if you believe that, right? But the problem is that in order for you to do that work, in order for you to go to those organizations, in order for you to do that kind of work, to be able to collaborate with other people who are also interested in the same things, you often have to make the concession that you believe that what defines you as being a woman, as what @𝕵𝖎 indicated earlier, is a menagerie of stereotypes, which can often feel dehumanizing to accept. But at the same time, I don't think that's necessarily true, 𝕵𝖎, and I'll give you an example of why. So we've talked a little bit today about like the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Like a big reason of why that happened was because of the Supreme Court justices who were selected to be put on the Supreme Court. It's because conservatives were selected to be put there, right? So let's just suppose there is this like withdrawal from feminism, right? What does that mean? Well, that translates into women who are more likely to vote for conservative, for Republicans, right? They're more likely to vote red as opposed to vote blue. And because they're more likely to vote for conservatives, they're more likely to vote for a conservative president, which means that you're more likely to get conservative justices, you're more likely to have conservative politicians who are less likely to pass legislation that would allow you to have easier access to contraception and to have easier access to abortion. So, and the problem again with like in regarding, I mean, we are like coming up on an election season pretty soon, is that Supreme Court justices aren't people that just leave after 2 or 4 years. They are people who are there until the day they die. And so while I don't deny like many of the problems that 𝕵𝖎𝖎 stated earlier, I think that the damage that would cause would be so catastrophic that I'm not sure that a wake-up call could necessarily solve it, right? Like what kind of wake-up call like would be necessary in order to overturn the effects of Roe v. Wade? It's going to be a long, long haul as a consequence of that Supreme Court decision being struck down.
I'm
Yeah, I
confused
think
though,
that
because you say that they're elected and they stay elected forever, but you're also saying that they were put in by like the conservative voting from the last presidency or the second to last presidency. So it's either been around forever or it hasn't.
But like think about like why so many people chose to vote red during that election, right? Like you can remember like many women who voted in the 2016 election. Like many people responded to the idea that Hillary Clinton was going to be voted. Well, why do I have to vote for this person just because she's a woman, right? Why is that a feminist thing? I'm a woman. I don't necessarily like her. Why is it a feminist thing? Like you can hear this kind of rhetoric, right? But the consequence of them choosing to follow that rhetoric and to vote for Trump meant that conservatives were chosen to go onto the Supreme Court, which therefore eventually led to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So voting for politicians who are more likely to protect other rights, and I'm not really sure like what the answer is, 𝕵𝖎𝖎, but I'm not sure that voting for conservative pundits is necessarily the answer. And I think that like if less people choose to identify as feminists, they're probably less likely to identify as liberal, and they're probably less likely to vote blue.
I don't think that it
This-
even
so-
matters who's in the
Well, that's a
presidency at
slippery
all,
slope.
because we have right now the vote of Roe v. versus Wade underneath Biden.
That's
vote-
Yeah, but
nothing
there's
but-
there's concerted effort by conservatives now to try to ban the distribution of the morning after pill via not morning after pill. I'm sorry.
Believe
the
me, marital rate will
abortion-
be up at a point.
There's a concerted effort by conservatives in order to make it illegal to send methopristone and then is it prefaced? I can't pronounce these things. Fairy Queen, help me out here. What are the two drugs?
I
don't
feel
know.
like
don't
we're
really know.
correlating.
Okay, either
I feel
way-
like we're
either way, this
correlating
is-
feminism with liberalism and anti-feminism
they're-
with conservatism.
No,
I think you misunderstood what I-
Feminism is a thing.
Okay,
I think
here's my
Fairy Queen, I
issue
think you
with,
misunderstood what I was saying.
Okay. What can you reiterate it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so when I say they should, maybe these people will stop identifying as feminists, right? Because they don't want to be associated with the mainstream type of feminism that exists currently, that is including men, right? They don't want to be they don't want to associate with that, so they stop identifying as feminists and they call themselves something else, right? Some other thing, because they still care about everything else that feminism is working toward, right? So the sex-based rights, access to abortion. All the things you went over earlier, right? That I don't think that these people, even though they aren't interested in the trans stuff or in the inclusion of men, I don't think those people are the type of people that are going to vote for conservatives or Republicans, right? They would still probably vote blue in some way. They probably look for Democrat politicians or blue politicians that are also not pushing that agenda. Right, but I don't think these people are going to turn into Republicans. I think you can there are examples of this throughout history, right? So something like I'm going to go really big, something like the schism that caused the Protestant Reformation, right, in Christianity. There are like ideological differences, ideological
You mean the
disagreements.
200 years of war that happened because of that?
Hold on, they're ideological differences, right? And it caused a split in the belief systems in the movement, and these two groups still existed. Generally, I think they have like similar end goals, similar belief systems, but they disagree on some of the details, right? And I think that if mainstream feminism is going to start including men, I think it's reasonable for feminists who aren't into that, who would be called not real feminists because they don't want to include men, because they're swerfs or turfs or whatever the fuck, for them to form some other pro-woman movement, pro-female movement, that is still working toward those goals.
My response to So that's a fair response.
Okay.
But my answer to you is that there is a movement like that, and it's unironically radical feminism. Like that's an example of like why couldn't I just call myself like a different kind of feminist as opposed to simply not identifying as a feminist, right? Like I know that there is scholarship and there are feminists who will advocate for everything that we just talked about, but they don't call themselves like it's the difference between being a liberal feminist and a radical feminist. No.
I think.
Yeah, or this just popped so like or being a feminist and a womanist, right? It was like a big thing in like secondary. Yeah, so yeah, I totally understand what you're getting.
Yeah. But I still think that the danger of like colluding with conservatives, I at least like if you're from like, even if you, okay, so like an example of this would be the fact that Andrew Dworkin worked with conservative party members during like the 1990s in order to help to ban pornography during that time, right?
Okay,
Like
I really want to jump in here.
And we've seen we've seen other examples of this too, if I may. Like, so Posey Parker, I'm not entirely certain, but my understanding is that a lot of the work that she's done is also work with conservatives as well. I don't think it's an unreasonable fear to have that, you know, that even if you do, so let's say like you're right, that yes, you don't necessarily have to think of yourself as a mainstream feminist. Maybe you're a womanist, or maybe you're a radical feminist, right? There is still that danger nonetheless, right? That you're more likely to support conservatives into office, right? If for no other reason. So if you're like, you don't think that that's necessarily true? Like the Andrea Dworkin is this, and Posey Parker would be another.
I think I think that's fair. I think that's a fair worry to have. But I wonder like how you.
I really want to
that,
just
right? So if the other side like just really quickly.
Hold on, Doobie will finish and then Joe can go. But Doobie's gonna finish his statement and then Joe can go. Good. Go ahead.
Right. So it feels like what you're saying is these people just need to kind of go along with the mainstream feminist movement. Maybe they can call themselves radical feminists, but they're all voting for the same people or pushing toward the same like agenda or supporting. You know, when they wave a sign at some feminist march, they're there right alongside the trans women, right, who are holding signs. So it seems like you're saying they need to go along with the wave, no matter where it takes them, because if they were to stop, they might lose power, or the people that they'd go to that might be like friendly to their position or their agenda might actually be worse for women in other ways. So it just feels like that's like a defeatist kind of mentality.
Do you think it's an unfair mentality to have, or like what is the solution?
I think there's more. I think there's more hope than that. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that the especially on the fringes, right? So we talk about like online shit, right, and what happens on the internet versus what happens in the real world. There's a lot of stuff that goes around in like LGBT activist spaces online that is fucking insane. And most people in the real world, right, off the internet would say this is fucking crazy. And if the movement is going to push this, they don't want to be associated with the movement. So I think that when as people start getting exposed to more and more of that sort of thing, I think you are going to see pushback, and I think we're already seeing pushback. I think the wave of Republican bills, the wave of like Republican bills across the U.S. right is an example of that pushback, right? I think that the Republicans aren't the best messengers for that cause, right? But I think that if you don't want them to do it, someone else needs to. So
Joe, go ahead.
Okay, so basically I want to jump in on the issue of liberal feminism, or the thing of feminists getting away from liberalism due to sex work and trans issues. I actually personally have no problem with the rad femmes. I tend to get on quite well in those spaces. I think Dawkins is okay and sort of mixed, but I find what I have noticed a lot is there are a lot of these, what I guess you would call conservative feminists, who go on the feminism was good, but it's gone too far now. And they list sometimes some very reasonable points about, say, sex work issues or things like that. And once I start to get a bit suspicious once I start going through some of the other stuff they're saying. And I do this thing. I always look on their Twitter and I Google Putin and Viktor Orban. And this is because when they start to lean more conservative, I get very like, okay, are you actually pro-feminist?
Brain rot.
Or do you actually want to live in what I would call a genuine patriarchy, as in something with horrible rates of domestic violence, insanely abusive pornography industry, which is interesting because a lot of them tend to jump on to bring up pornography. I know I could probably go on a lot about the swerve spin because it's a very complex area and I have very different feelings depending on where you enter it. But what I find very frustrating is I'm absolutely fine with any feminist who wants to say I'm upset that I feel like these areas are being entered by like trans people. I kind of want to keep it as a feminist thing, much like I'd be accepting of someone who says I just don't want men in this area. This is mine.
That's really convenient for you as a dude, yeah.
Yeah, and the same with, once again, I think there's a lot of problems with the sex industry. My issue is, once again, wait, you're talking positively about Auburn here. Holy shit, you know that's a country which has basically legalized real rape porn. Admittedly not passed into law, but there's a reason it's a little worse than a good chunk of Europe. And that's why I'm very suspicious when we get these quote-unquote conservative feminists.
Okay. Well, we've gone a lot of places around the mulberry bush, if you will. Ginger, go ahead.
What am I supposed to say to that?
Good
I'm supposed to
question.
follow that? Are you kidding?
Ginger,
Go to somebody.
reground us. Ginger, reground us. So I'll ask you, Ginger, because again, you and Doobie are kind of on standing alone, back to back.
We can go back to men hitting on women in public if you like. I'm happy to talk about that.
Well, let's talk about what. Let me reground this, please. So you mentioned a little bit about slut walks when we first started, right? And the over sexualization and promiscuity being seen as something that cannot be touched. So can I ask you, and if you don't want to answer, fair enough. That's totally fine. But in what ways do you think that you have been hurt by modern feminism, personally?
It's not necessarily that I feel like it's hurting me in general. I just don't think that it's doing society any favors. I don't think it's doing the actual movement of feminism any favors. When the movement is supposed to be about equality, but there's a chunk of people, and I know that everybody has their chunk. That's what I prefaced this entire debate around is
what is it supposed to be doing? Like
equality. It's supposed to be about equality.
How?
That women have the same effects that men that have the same. What do you mean how?
How do you create equality?
Not by asking for
Where's the
more than the other people.
Obviously.
But that's what I'm getting
how
at.
do you change? Yeah.
So I'm.
Go on.
Well,
go on. I'm listening. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I got thrown off by the question. Now I don't remember where I was
My
going.
apologies.
No, you're fine.
This is why we don't interrupt, gang, too much. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me reframe and let me hopefully get you back on track. No, it's fine. So you talked about how it's supposed to be about equality, but now it's about women wanting more. In what ways are women wanting, feminism, to be clear, asking for more than equality?
Well, I think it's the
Violence
same issue.
Stop it! I will mute you.
Sorry.
Ginger.
Go.
Sorry. Hold on. But okay, so I'm so sorry. Can you re-ask the question?
Sure. In what ways? So you mentioned it's supposed to be about equality, but you feel that at least in certain ways it's not. It's about asking for more. What are those ways? Can you elucidate?
Well, I think that the issue sometimes becomes more about women and men getting paid equally. But I see a lot of on the side of, well, we should be paid equally for anything. So it's like they're saying, oh, well, we do the same amount of work for that men do, but typically when they're doing the same amount of work, they're getting paid the same amount. Like, and it's based on your history of being able to do that job versus man and woman. if in a construction job a woman is handling the same equipment and doing the same thing that a man is doing, she's getting paid the same that man is getting paid, if they have the same background. Like, right? That's how it should be.
And are you saying this isn't
So-
what
so is it
feminism is
under-
advocating for? Is that your point?
Not recently, no.
No.
I don't.
Unresolved problems? Is that what you mean? Like there are many unresolved problems that aren't like the focus?
Well, yeah, exactly. I feel like they're focused. There's a lot of
Yeah.
focus on things that shouldn't be focused on, like equality for
change.
things that just aren't equal, like for certain things.
Can you
Like,
give us an example?
again, I'll go back to the job issue. Like
Sports.
well, in sports, I understand there aren't people
Yeah.
showing up for women's sports. Like, women barely show up for women's sports. The majority of people who show up for women's sports are men. So, like, for the feminists being
No,
for effeminate people to say, like, oh, well, women should get paid the same amount that men do in sports, they're not bringing that money in, so they can't be paid that amount. There's just things that are not equal.
How about like
There's a
mixing
reason.
leagues?
There's a reason there's an NBA for women, because they can try out for the NBA, but they can't make the NBA. Like, there's certain things that we are limited on as a female group, and I don't understand why that has to be such a negative outlook on things. Like, why our limitations have to be a negative limitation when men have their limitations too. Like, it just seems like we focus on the feminist movement focuses on the wrong things to get their point across, and there's just a right way and a wrong way to go about it, and I feel like the majority of them go about it the wrong way.
Okay, I want to toss
There are,
it.
like,
To,
lots of
I want to
loose
toss it
ends.
to Cypher. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to agree with you to an extent, Ginger, about this, because I think it's an issue with just people in general. But I think it's an issue with people in general. It happens on conservative sides too. People don't know how to make the best arguments. And you see that a lot with the 80-20 rule when people talk about the gender wage gap. So they say women make 80 cents to the dollar of what men make, right? There's a 20% wage gap. There is a wage gap. It exists. It's not 20%. That 20% is the average across all industries. And we can talk about why that exists. And maybe there should be things that we do to pay traditional women's work more. For example,
Changes
teachers
between
don't get paid
countries.
enough. The social workers don't get paid enough. A bunch of other things, right?
That I agree with,
A
for sure.
person can join the police force without a college degree and make 40 or make up to $70,000 a year. A person that joins social work, which is arguably as important as police work, has to have a master's degree at a
And
minimum,
dangerous.
and will only make $30,000 to $40,000.
It's also a
But-
dangerous job.
Yes, exactly. So there's things to talk about that. But when people say equal pay for equal work, most people are going to be like, well, you're not doing the same work, and therefore you're not going to get paid the same. Tough luck, right? But there is still a wage gap. The wage gap is about 10%. That 10% wage gap cannot be explained. Because an economist recently won the Nobel Prize in economics for this, for her research in this, and I'm just bad with names in general, so I can't. That's what it is. But essentially, what it boiled down to is it was the family penalty. When up until a woman turns about 26 or so, when they start having kids, they make as much or sometimes even out earn men. And then after they have a family, after they start to have a child, they precipitously get less promotions, even if they are doing the same kind of work, because it is expected that they will eventually take work off in order to care for the family. That explains the vast majority of that wage gap. After you account for that, it's about 10% that is unexplained. And that could be, not negotiating wages. That could be a number of different things. I think that it's a little bit of sexism. It's a little bit of boys club that's happening in there. But I think all these things are valid. But there is still a wage gap. Just wanted to point that out there.
Fair enough. We are kind of winding down here. I wanted to open it up to call-ins, but before I do that, gang, I want to give Goat, your mic's being weird. But I wanted to give everyone a chance to have closing thoughts on this, give a shout out, and then gang, we'll do call-ins for about 30 minutes. We'll make it short. And so if you have something to say, if you think that they've missed some stuff that they needed to talk about that we just didn't get to, join the Discord. Exclamation point Discord and chat. Jump backstage, and we will pull you in, and you can ask your question. Please keep it brief and concise. We'll go through this quick. We're only going to do this for about 30 minutes because I'm hungry. But before that, closing statements. We're going to start with Doobie, and then we're going to work our way around and end on Fairy Queen. So, Doobie, take us away.
Yeah, everything I said is correct. Everything everybody else said was incorrect. And that's about it. I'm Doobie. I run the politics server on Discord.
Easy.
Discord.gg/politics.
Go check it out, gang. Pretty cool place. Cypher, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm 𝕬𝖎. I did stream under the moniker Crowdsourced Politics. That's changing to 𝕬𝖎 Report. That will be official on the 20th, so you can find me there. As far as this debate is concerned, I think that we touched on a number of different things, and overall, I think that modern feminism is still a positive for women, even if there is some disagreement about the surf and turf stuff. So that's my
Check him out, gang. Once his website's up and running, make sure you get on the ground floor of that. Go. And go, please, for the love of God, don't interrupt as much next time, please. Okay, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. Sorry, it's because I missed like half of the debate, so I exploded like.
Makes sense.
My bad. Yeah. Well, basically, my name's Goat. Like, well, real life 𝕬𝖎. That's the name. I think well, you can't find me anywhere, but that's it, I guess.
Okay.
Closing
Yes.
statement.
What's your thoughts on feminism?
Well, I kind of agree with Ginger about the fact that there are lots of things that are being like left behind in the current feminist wave. For example, unsolved issues like the wage gap, okay, and stuff like that, and they aren't being addressed, okay, like things like discrimination in, like, for example, like by doctors, for example. We had like a panel a while ago with a good example of discrimination, and that discrimination against women is still very much a topic, okay? And I see that most of the debates in like about feminism are just about like sex work and why women who have an OnlyFans are like fooling men, and why it's bad, and things that are just like unreasonable pivots from like the real point of feminism. And people are still hanging on to like these social constructs like masculinity and femininity. But that being said, they're still supposed to be masculine and feminine traits. Yes, they cannot be like absolutely disintegrated.
Okay.
Some of them will stay. Yeah. So one last sentence. Yeah, so feminism will win only when all countries will be Western.
Feminism will win when all countries will be Western. Based imperialist stance. Let's go. American hegemony
I could
forever
talk
and
about
ever.
Sorry, that's it. Facts.
Okay.
I
We'll go to Joe. Brief,
Okay.
Joe.
Okay, I want to bring up that I know at least 2 Japanese works of fiction which are entirely obsessed with the horror of the idea of a feminist Western takeover of Japan. One of them is
Japan
very
is a Western
entertaining.
Western.
These are closing statements, not arguments.
Sorry.
No, I think it would be interesting to get into this, but no, my name's Joe Brooks. I run a stand-up comedy night. You can find me on YouTube at Joe Brooks Hatch. There's some clips from me from like some of my the nights I've performed at. I will probably try and get a 40-minute video essay on Anime and Race out hopefully this week because I have no excuse. I've got a good few days off work, so I really should finish it. Which hopefully won't get me banned from YouTube like the last time I talked about anime because the fans got really upset.
Joe, you're a treasure. Thanks for coming. Check it out. Ginger, what you got?
I'm 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, and feminism sucks.
Base, where can people find you?
𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter.
And outside of feminist communities, of course.
Okay. Last, not least, Fairy Queen. Take it away.
Hi. What I want you guys to know, so I think I've made my concession to 𝕵𝖎𝖎 earlier, but I still think that the concern of colluding with conservative forces on its axis will not be overall good for women. I still believe and think that there are many aspects of modern feminism that have been a huge success. The Me Too movement was a huge success. The allowing women to serve in combat in 2013 was a huge success. We have had more women in the past 10 or 13 years that have ascended to positions of power more so than in the entire history of the United States. That is an enormous thing, a win for feminism. And it happens specifically because of feminists who have advocated for girls. We still have a lot of work to go. We still have a lot of work defending teenagers who have been assaulted in schools, defending children. We still have a lot of work defending sex workers. There's been a new renaissance of worrying about the impact of pornography on sex workers. We need to worry and care more about the impacts of surrogacy. There are multiple issues that we can still care about. But I'm confident, if you are as well, that if you choose to continue to believe in the mission that is modern feminism, while still allowing yourself to be critical of some issues, you don't have to be a purist. I believe that there's a lot of good that we can still do in this world. And I hope that you will join me and the other feminists in trying to make that world a reality.
Okay.
Also, I'm Fairy Queen. You can find me at Fairy Queen's Cottage, all capitalized letters. Not all capitalized letters. So a capital F, capital Cottage, and capital Queen. There you go.
All capitalized words. Cool.
No, well, it's fine.
Gang, check them all out. They're great. If you've liked this content, I could use your support. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button.
Give
Super
Wick
chats.
all your money.
Where are all the
all the
donos?
money, all the Twitch subs, all the super chats, all the gift subs and the bits. They really help me out and allow me to put up panels much like this one. We got some great stuff coming up next week. We're going to be talking about is Trump a fascist, and does he use fascist rhetoric? Biden recently did a speech on this where he accused Trump of fascist rhetoric. Was he right to do so? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about immigration. Immigration's going to be a great topic, right? That's going to come up in the general electorate, I'm sure. We're going to talk about how open we should be in the West on our immigration policies. It'll be a great topic. Tune in, gang. And last thing I'll say on feminism is that before women got the right to vote, we had 0 cities destroyed in nuclear fire. And I want you to think about that for a minute, okay? I want you to put that in your mind, okay? No nukes before women got to vote. And suddenly, women get to vote, and now we have the threat of nuclear winter. That's all I'm saying. Okay, thank you for this. And we got some callers, so if you want to call in, please, we'll go until I'm bored of it.
I'm going to go.
Yeah,
thank you so much. It was a lovely time. Yep. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Fairy.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, first and foremost,
I'll be right back.
Artemis.
Nah.
Hello there.
What do you got for us?
So I've heard a lot of things said around the stream today that are very interesting. We had a feminist who touted a bunch of political positions that supposedly benefit women and not feminism, while disregarding what feminism is supposed to do is make women happier because they're more equal, right? We would see that in the statistics of women becoming more happier over time as feminism achieved its goals, which we don't see that. Women are actually the least happy as they've been since feminism started.
Au contraire,
I have the study pulled up for this. So
I think I have the study as well.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. So
study on study action, gang. Hot.
Is it the paradox of declining female happiness?
I need to find it.
I
Publish
doubt
it.
you guys are talking about the same study.
Yeah, we're not. But this study is actually you can't get around it.
Okay, Artemis,
Um,
can you briefly
yeah,
describe what you're talking about, please?
So the issue is that all of these goals that feminism set out to achieve were to become equal. And by becoming equal, feminists thought that women would become more happy over time. The issue is that they measured success by the standards of men, not women. And as women became more equal, it shows that women became more unhappy and have developed more mental health disorders over time, to the point where we're having women falling out of the workplace.
Feminism.
Wow.
Turning
How do you
women
know
crazy?
Feminist.
Wait, how do you know that? How do you measure
Because
that?
of the studies I have pulled up right now.
Okay,
The
how
studies
do
that you have
measure
pulled
the-
up right now are not accounting for the fact that we have done things in society in general that have made everybody worse off,
Like,
especially in the United States with the
Or
1980s.
people just became aware that mental health exists. Okay.
That too.
so we have
I
women's
would
mental health.
argue you compare women's happiness to countries where women have less rights.
Okay, why would we
What is the
Why would
cross
we-
study
hold
of
on.
this woman?
Well-
What are the cross studies of women not
Okay.
being happy? Like,
Okay, so we
What-
did. It's a
what
self-report
other data?
since started since 1970.
okay, you
Okay.
can't have just self-reports. You have to
Why
have
wouldn't
more data
Also, what
because you
about the
have to,
happiness of
because
men?
that's how because that's how these studies work in social sciences. You need more data.
Social
that
sciences
can
are a
approve-
joke.
that can approve your claim. Okay, you need statistics
Okay.
about amount of women that initiate divorce. Okay,
Oh.
it can be something that
I mean, you say social sciences
I mean, if you
are
say-
a joke, but it
I
sounds
mean,
like your
you
stats
need
are pretty much
cross
social
study.
science.
You need cross study because you can't just you can't just
Okay,
give,
I don't know
like,
why you brought up
questionnaires
the
to prove
initiating
that's it.
divorces, because that would show women are the believers.
Well, women
in-
can
That's
divorce a lot
an
easier
example
now.
of a cross study.
And that
okay?
was
more
directly
data
due
that
to
supports
no-fault
or
divorce.
does not support.
I mean, marital rape wasn't even a thing before like the
That's
70s.
not
Okay,
not
okay,
my point.
okay,
Not my
enough,
point.
enough.
I'm
Both
gonna,
of you.
I'm gonna,
Terrible.
I'm gonna
Both of
keep
you.
going with my
Both of you.
stuff.
Stop.
Um,
Artemis, continue.
Okay, so we'll skip women's happiness. When it comes to the gender pay gap, the actual unexplained percentage is 3%, not 10. They narrowed
For
it
what
down.
country?
The United States.
It's between 5 and 10% the last time I looked at it. I
Okay,
used the
so
upper bound.
The
So,
of course we would.
like,
The
Yeah,
the
of
big
course it did.
the big thing is, so I'll explain WhickTV. The studies usually used by the gender pay gap enthusiasts are when they take people like Elon Musk and how much they make, and they compare them to McDonald's drive-through workers.
Yeah, but that was not the study I was referencing. I
Okay,
was
but this is
referencing-
the
that's why I said 10%.
okay, so
because
it's
the study that I'm
10% and
referencing
not
is the one
before
that,
Okay, I'm gonna mute you,
Okay,
Go,
so
because again, no one can hear anyone else, right?
Okay. So I'm just gonna finish through with the reason why the gender pay gap study is 3% is due to the fact that there is a family tax. Cypher's right for a lot of things he said. He missed a few things. They usually would when it's on the same pay for the same work, they would ignore the amount of times that person has been in that field, their degrees, the amount of time they actually spent working. Like for lawyers, would get promoted men usually because they would be there for a lot longer. They would take less sick days. They would actually put in a lot more overtime. This is all in the statistics, and that would lead to more people being promoted into the managing positions.
in the study that I was referencing, it was comparing hour to hour, job to actual job worked.
Okay, so
And
but
in
but
that
not
study, it was
seniority.
anywhere. It was seniority because it's comparing job to job as closely as you can get it. Because
What's the name of the study?
one industry can call it one thing, and another industry can call it a different thing. Do that, right? They
Can you-
compared seniority.
what's
they
the name of
compared
the
all
study?
these things.
What's the name of the study?
Yeah, what is the name of the study, man?
I'll have to look it up again. It was on Freakonomics like in 2016. So
Oh, okay, so I mean that's roughly where people started attacking the gender pay gap. So the 3% can most likely why? Because it was wrong. Just like the no. The 80% is wrong.
The
The
20% is wrong, but
Which is
there's
why
still-
Okay,
people-
I don't care. Okay, I'm gonna cut you both off because this study, what study's wrong, what study's
Jesus
not.
Christ.
Let's move on. What
I'm
else
sorry.
you got, Artemis?
Hold on, I'm gonna apologize to Cypher. I'm sorry you had to deal with somebody in here for this long. Women. I was like, so when we talk about women being benefited by feminism, it is overwhelmingly yes. Women are benefited by feminism. They still will be going forward. The reason is because feminism has never been about equality. It's been about getting more benefits for women that happen to be initially starting with equality benefits, and then it moved past that point. For example, bachelor's degrees are heavily favoring women because of the policies we have in place that for women only grants and stuff like that are still in place, even though women outnumber men in college.
That
They
has
have-
since started to go down. Colleges have actually started to recruit a disproportionate number of men versus grades in order to
Is it-
keep general
is it
parity.
disproportionate
That's especially true.
or
That's especially true in elite colleges and universities, where if you actually looked at just a rank statistic about grades and test scores, there would be like 56% of women would be attending colleges, while the remainder would be men. And instead, they try to get gender parity in the elite institutions because they still think that the elite institutions should be helping people find their spouses. And so they get it to parity where it's about 52-48.
Okay, I would have to look that up because I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I can look it up again too, but that's
Okay. Because
Okay, I can't mind if I just jump in.
Go
there
for
a
it,
bit,
Brooks.
Because I would actually say it's interesting because I recently read an article about how a British university is planning to introduce a grant specifically targeting working class white men, which actually would, to a degree, make some sense because due to areas like London basically being where all the income is, and understandably that being where the majority of diversity is, e.g. big cities versus rural areas where no one really wants to live. Yeah, it is kind of somewhere where people are falling behind. In fact, I would actually argue that part of why I'm going to be looking around houses tomorrow may well be because me and some friends were made redundant before some others due to increased demand for women in tech. I don't want to make that accusation. It's just people are throwing it around in a bit of a private Discord where me and some ex-employees sort of linger. So, believe it or not, I do have some feminist critical, I guess, stuff to say. What I would argue, though, is that when you get to stuff like, say, universities, I feel it's sort of unfair to bring up that and then go, well, the gender pay thing isn't really a
gender
pay
college
isn't
degrees are tied directly to income after college, where women are making a lot of the money where they're exceeding men at younger ages in terms of income is directly correlated to the amount of degrees they're getting over men. It has a direct impact.
Yeah, I'm just sort of saying that basically, I feel what concerns me when people talk a lot about how about all these women in college and we need to get more men in is usually it quickly comes down to Me Too. Oh, and the problem is we're scaring men off because they're terrified they'll get accused of rape, or there's all these like courses which obviously have no value and obviously men aren't going to take it. To me, both those things feel like sort of nonsense. Like I feel a lot of the reason men aren't going to college is just I think it is men are generally a bit less interested in education. I'm taking some classes in a college right now, nothing big, just to kill some time and get some stuff. I've noticed I'm one of like the class is like 6-1 women to men, and there's no real reason for it other than it seems like men just aren't as interested.
There's a lot more funding for women to be provided college than there is for men.
Yes, but this is a class anyone can enter for free.
I mean,
that's in the U.S.
Correct. Yeah, it is in the
globally.
U.S.
Yeah, I don't know about London stuff. But
I'll
Artemis,
finish
we do
up
have a
here.
line. We do have a line.
Yep.
So one last thought, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, the reason why feminism will always benefit women is I say that the one that doesn't have the
Sorry, but
gender dynamic issue going on with its infighting. The reason why is because feminism will often preach for a cause, and once it's either gets parity or gets greater than parity with men, it immediately ignores that cause and then jumps on another one, and then doesn't talk about the disproportionality that women have over men in that area. It just moves on to the next thing that it complains about. It's a never-ending process.
Artemis,
I mean, that's
thanks
I
again.
fetched
Okay.
the research I was talking about.
Okay, just
Yeah.
give it to
No.
Wick and he'll send it to me, and then we can do that.
You don't.
I put the articles inside
Artemis, we love
the
you.
chat.
Bye-bye.
I
Next up, we're going to go through these quick because I'm tired, gang. You're live. What you got? Hello. You're live.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted on your end. Okay, we're going to do this in 10. Oh, here we go.
Hello.
Here we go. What you got?
We can hear.
Oh, sorry. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yep,
You're
you're
fine.
live. We can hear you. Go
Please
ahead.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
you're live. Go
Hi.
on.
Hi. Yeah, I've just been listening. I've been. Hello.
We can hear
Yes,
you.
we hear.
Continue.
Turn off the stream.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
I'm just sort of curious about. I think following on from the previous point about this kind of notion of inequality and patriarchy, and women are somehow always victims, and they're always oppressed, and any discrepancy we see, whether that be in STEM or in politics or whatever, that must be discrimination. It must be that women are being kept down. Yet to me, it doesn't seem like. It seems like this is really driven by ideology and not so much driven by the actual desires of women themselves. Like I work in STEM, and we have huge number of quotas and affirmative action programs and grants and things to really promote women above men. At every stage of your career, you've got so many advantages. Yet we still see women who are underrepresented, and I think that's just truly the fact that women don't necessarily want to. They don't have the interest in these fields that men do. Men and women are fundamentally different. They are going to make
Why?
different life decisions. And why can't we respect those life decisions? Why do
Right.
we have to make it some crusade?
I
I
disagree.
would actually agree with you for the most part. I run a stand-up comedy night, and I notice a lot of comedy nights will specifically ask for women to balance it out. And I don't do that. Generally, I just whoever asks, as long
I
as they're
imagine that
not
would
like
be really hard to do because you'd there wouldn't be as many female comedians interested
yes,
in
there
doing it.
just aren't that many. Like occasionally I have some, but I've only had one night where it was ever even. And like I said, I make no attempts to balance it. We get some, non-white and gay guys. We get quite a few gay guys. They seem quite in the stand-up comedy scene. But yes, I do think there are some areas different genders just tend to reach towards.
The feminists
What I-
don't accept
Wait,
they won't,
how
they won't
are
accept there being
these
discrepancy.
areas? How are
But
these
didn't-
areas?
Hold on.
There's no. Okay, sorry.
Hold on. Dale,
Um,
you were saying something?
I was just saying that feminists don't accept these discrepancies. They immediately presume that it must be discrimination, and then they focus all their energies on trying to basically do social engineering. They don't want to
Well,
respect
About
the
science?
wishes and the interests and the natural inclinations of some women to do as they wish. And if that's not to pursue these particular fields, then that should be respected. We shouldn't go through these kind of these social engineering programs. I mean, that's all I can call it. These
Can you
affirmative
give a
action
specific
programs.
example? Can
okay,
you give a
I
specific
would.
I mean, I could
example
talk about my
that
own example.
demonstrates,
Oh,
that
let her talk about
demonstrates
her
the
own
fact
example.
that women
Stop.
do not like. Can I?
Oh no, sorry. You
I wanted
sorry,
to
what was your question?
Oh, can you specify about an example about where women are inherently different than men in, let's say, science field, and this is something that we need to accept? Can you be like more specific?
She said interest, that women don't have
said
the interest to
I,
go
I
into
didn't
it.
say women are naturally
How do you measure
inferior. I
that?
never said that.
Yeah, that wasn't her. This is a mistranslation issue. What Goat is saying is just asking you to like define where you're getting your inference from that this is a natural inclination.
Well, I mean, you can look at any studies. They regularly ask young girls and boys where their interests lie, and we see that boys
These
have a
youngest-
tendency towards certain subjects. Girls
Yeah.
tend have a tendency towards other subjects.
Because of
And-
education.
No, because of natural inclination. Women have
No,
a
it's
more
not nat-
more.
Let Ginger
You can't-
finish.
It is a
you can't
natural
do this in a
inclination.
vacuum.
Why is
You
that
cannot do
wrong?
this in the
Why
vacuum
is it
because
wrong to
after
have a
1,000
female
years,
inclination and a natural male
it's not
inclination?
wrong.
We are
That's not
different.
What I said. That is not what I said. I said that these specific things haven't found to be one of these inherent differences. Okay, there is
Then there
legit
would
no
be more
evidence for
women
that.
in STEM.
After 1,000 years of
necessarily.
patriarchy, it has side effects. Okay,
Okay.
these are examples for side effects. Okay, the fact that women shouldn't go to science and should go to more emotionally
That
involved
hasn't been true
jobs
for
is
my whole
great
life.
example for that.
Okay, I know
Stop,
it has
Joe,
been
stop,
true within
stop,
my life,
stop.
and I'm younger than
Yeah,
you.
that hasn't. That just
You're so
has
full of
not
shit.
been true. I remember being freaking 8 years old, and they were pushing for women to go into math and things like that, and to get them involved. They were
Okay,
looking for it.
Well,
They may have
why
done it.
are they
May have
pushing?
done it
Popular
poorly,
Why
right?
are they pushing?
Stop!
In-
Stop! Oh my God!
Why?
Stop! Maybe if you let me finish, your question will be answered. Perhaps. Okay? So, again, in my life, I have seen this, right? Again, my upbringing was different. I was raised in a military family. I went to school on military bases in certain cases, right? Maybe that had something to do with it. But I did see a push, right? A concerted effort for them to involve and promote women, or girls at the time, right, into these kinds of programs, spaces, studies. They looked for it. They reached for it. I'm older than all of you. Okay?
Yes, okay.
I think I'm the
What's
oldest
the
person
argument?
now.
I didn't argue against that.
Okay, can
No,
I
we
bring
were
up,
talking
because I
about.
did...
No, you can't, Joe. You can't.
Oh, fine.
You can't. You can't, because they're trying to deal with Dolly here, or Dale, or I don't know how you say your name. Okay. This idea, right, that there are natural inclinations. Now, obviously, we don't know, or I don't know personally, right, how much of this is just natural tendency and how much of it is this social pressure, right? Because our culture has an effect on us. And I guess
Yes.
there is an argument to be made that a lot of women don't go into certain things or certain roles because the culture disincentivizes that. That might be fair. But when we have other cultures, non-American cultures, European cultures in a lot of cases, where it is much more egalitarian than America, we do still see these same inclinations, right? At least in certain
Still
fields.
had patriarchy. You can't put it in a vacuum. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the issue is that really the push to have like kind of parity within certain fields is fairly new. We can even in European countries where this exists, and it existed before the United States, we're only talking about since the 90s. So you you don't know how long it's going to take for a society that's more accepting.
I disagree because
Women
there's been
Can somebody only talk one at a time, please?
Well, I'm trying to talk. I haven't talked in like 30 minutes. So, there has been a push for women to be in these places since the feminist movement and women have started going to college. There's been I'm trying to think of the word. I'm so sorry. Incentives for women to join college above men having incentives to join college. So like women have the incentive of like, okay, well, if I'm a single mother, I have this single mother scholarship to fall back on, but there's no single male scholarships to fall back on. They're trying to push and allow women to in colleges, and they have been since they were allowed in college. So
it's been roughly 30 years. It's been since the 90s where this has been pretty much in existence, and the reason
No,
we can
because
say that
I was
is
born in the 80s.
yeah, so was I. I'm fucking 39 years old. The point.
Yeah, then you're not the oldest here, by the way.
You're not
FYI.
looking too bad for that. Just want to let you
thank
know.
No one is older than feminism still.
Wick is the oldest.
Anyway,
Okay. Anything else you have for us, Dale? We have one more person.
No, just feminism is terrible, and I think the study, the gender gap study you're talking about, is 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. But she, if you actually read her research, she does say very clearly that she hasn't found any evidence of discrimination, and they gave her a Nobel Peace Prize. They gave her a Nobel Prize for economics based on that research.
Yes, and I said that we can't explain where that other gap came from, and then get listed off some of the things.
She said she's concluded it's not discrimination. It's due to preferences in flexibility, which again comes down to natural inclination. Women tend.
We can't say that's natural inclination.
I mean,
still,
the
but
person who wrote the study
that.
did apparently. So
no,
and she got a Nobel Prize, so I'm inclined to believe her over you.
And that's not what she said. She said that she
know.
didn't say it's natural.
Okay.
Well, you didn't even know her name. I know and you.
I didn't recall her name because I'm bad with names in general. I don't even know your name still, and it's sitting right in front of me.
Okay, Dale. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for calling in. I'd love to have you again on sometimes. I want to pick your brain, but for now.
Yeah, anytime. I would like more dissenting views.
Excellent. I do too.
Represented.
I would love to have you on again, but for now, send you backstage. One more, and then we'll close this shit show up. Let me read these super chats real quick before I bring the next person on. $10 from 𝕬𝖎𝖙. Studies have shown baby monkeys and apes are natural dimorphic, where males are interested in shapes and geometric objects and females liking dolls. There is zero education there. It is instinct. And $5 from 𝕬𝖎𝖙 to say, can someone explain why women are less capable of spatial reasoning on average than men? Not touching that one. Okay. You're up. You're the last person for tonight. What you got? Make it good.
Make it count.
You're muted.
You're muted on your end.
Never, I'm afraid. Please unmute.
Oh, well.
Doobie, will you please switch back, for fuck's sake?
Oh, I'd like to know what he looks like, so hey.
That's not what he looks like.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize
I'm just going to assume it is, because
I didn't realize that I was on. I'm
definitely not what he looks like.
Okay. Well, let's go to our guest here. Go ahead, buddy. What you got?
Oh, look, hi, CTV.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't want to be rude or anything.
Don't. I invited you on.
You gotta mute the
Go
stream,
ahead.
though. We can hear the stream in the background. Good talk.
You're live.
Close the stream.
You gotta mute.
Yeah. So okay, now I'm ready. How are y'all doing tonight?
Hello.
Oh.
So you got a haircut. Looking good.
Too enthusiastic.
Everybody's doing excellent. So the topic of tonight is feminism and how it's ruined the world.
If it's failed women.
Or not.
These callers should have been on
It's failed women, it's failed men, it's failed fucking everybody. Let's look at the state of the world right now. We got Houthi pirates fucking going ballistic over in the Red Sea. We got Somali pirates about to jump off in the Atlantic. We got Israel and Hamas losing their shit. Russia, Ukraine popping off. China about to just they're already launching shit satellites over fucking Taiwan, making their sensors go off. Somebody tell me how feminism has done anything to help any part of this.
You forgot global warming.
I think most countries could do more feminists.
Goat. She said you forgot global warming.
That's because that's not actually a thing. That's the shit that the women want you to believe is happening. That's not actually happening. The fuck?
Oh, God.
But when you get these Americans, I have no idea if they're real or not.
Oh, buddy, we've been all
real, I
doing
promise
the same
you.
thing about you the whole night, Joe.
So
okay.
So what's the
how's
question?
everybody doing?
So
we got
again,
a lot going on.
It is a very good question from CTV, right?
What was the question?
Do we think that
Was there a question in there?
Yes. What's feminism done to fix things, right?
So you came in to ask the question that the debate panel is about?
I know. We have, think about it, that half of the population of humanity used to not study and do sciences. Now it does. Okay, that's great.
No,
Okay, that's
now it's on
progress.
TikTok.
That you have more people who are studying and doing science and like.
Well, no, now we have to listen to
research.
Cypher pretend he knows what studies say. It's like it's not a good, it's not a
Okay,
positive
if you
thing.
want a sincere answer, I would say a lot of what you're talking about tends to come due to cultures which tend to be quite opposed to feminism, e.g., Russia, Ukraine to a lesser degree, but still Israel, Palestine, etc.
Not Israel.
Well,
Israel,
not
Israel is more
I suppose
progressive.
let
I'll
me
give
ask
it
it this
that.
way.
Israel
I suppose
shouldn't
let
be
me ask
more
it this way.
progressive.
Right?
I mean, if you look at COVID, not to give women too much of a blowjob, but the countries with female leaders
Wait,
did
when
do
did
a
women
bit
start
better with
getting
that.
blowjobs?
Well, that's
Well, I've
he's a modern
tried. I mean, it's
feminist.
an
CTV.
acquired
He's a modern
taste.
feminist.
that's a terrible
Women can have
sample.
peepees
Like,
now.
Oh, dude, come on.
So confused.
I hate
No,
you so
Okay,
much.
I don't
right
know
now.
what's
I
going
was
on
gonna
anymore.
linger, not to give
The
women
woman.
too much cunnilingus.
What?
I don't think you're a real person, Joe. I am convinced
he's-
somebody has
but
created a
he's
British
British.
AI of.
No, come on, it's not AI.
I'm just. Holy
That's
cow!
real.
You. Okay.
Yeah, I can say
You
it's on
can
my
make it up.
stand-up if you like.
No, that's okay. We're good.
Um,
We're good. It is the end of the night. CTV, are you back at the game? Are you open for?
I
throwing
am.
on
I
shows
am
again?
in. I am back in my fucking pond that I fucking swim in, and everybody else is just going to have to get used to the fact that I'm back in the fucking pond. So
I'll start reaching out.
yeah.
We got some great
Well, great
debates
to see
coming
you
up
again,
next
mister.
week. I think you'll be
I
perfect for
hope
it.
Danabo's telling me there's no fucking talent out here. That's what I'm hearing. Right. So I don't know what it is with these fucking streamers, but they need to step up their fucking game when it comes to fucking entertaining. Right. Because if you like, first things first, if you're streaming on Twitch, you're trying to get something advocated for. Me, it's fucking chaos and entertainment, buddy. Right. And I want people to learn something on the fucking way. And everything that I just said is absolutely fucking true from a certain perspective. Just like everything that you're going to say in any of these debate panels is going to be true from a certain perspective. What you're trying to do in those debate panels is to try to actually see the other side, see how that meshes with what you've been seeing, and see if you haven't, in fact, been told a falsehood in your life.
Okay.
Thank you,
There we go.
CTV. That's
Yep.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good talk. Good talk. But for now, I'm hungry and I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna go send you out. Who's still streaming here? Anyone here still streaming?
Oh, actually, I'm streaming.
Yeah,
Any
go
of
ahead. I'm streaming, but I'm
You know what?
probably ending right after. So
Okay,
you
if
go
you're
ahead.
ending right
Yeah.
after, if no one's gonna
Oh, I just want to say, everybody, like, thank you for the debate. It was fun.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
sorry
thanks
for
for
being
having
so
me.
aggressive and enthusiastic. I just missed half the debate, and
Yeah,
I
fuck you.
felt like I had to, like, seriously compensate
Okay.
for that. Sorry, guys.
You're fine.
So yeah.
Why is
Yeah.
the name on?
we'll
okay,
raid into
hide
critically
name?
thinking
Okay.
veteran. And I'll reach out. But for now, next week,
Sounds good,
remember,
Wick. You have a good one, buddy. I'm
next
gone.
week,
See ya.
we're gonna start with Monday, okay? And we're gonna have debates on immigration. We're gonna have debates on fascist rhetoric in America, and maybe we're gonna have the trial of food shops. So tune in. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Good.
See you, Wick.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Sir.
See ya.